for June 19th at, no, not June 19th, it's the 10th of July for, it's 7:30. And the first administrative discussion is Reed Meadows to accept and promote the signing of it. Does anybody got any discussion on it?
No.
So again, this is the conservation restriction that you all voted on before. We just finally have the paperwork to sign. And actually, when you sign it, then I got to run it down to the planning board real quick, because they're doing their vote tonight also.
So,
I'll make a motion to sign, what is it?
Reed
The
Meadow
approval?
Conservation Restriction.
The approval for it, or?
Yeah.
The
For the
approval-
final paperwork.
Oh, sign the final paperwork for the Reed Meadows conservation restriction?
I'll second the motion.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So should we sign it?
Yeah, so I actually have 2 copies there, so if you'd sign both copies.
Candy's always good.
Something a little different tonight.
Yeah. Actually has assigned slots to this one, so sign the right.
And believe me, that one ran
you need a
around
pen?
because it was Chase and
Oh, yeah.
all sorts of people on it.
true.
So it got fixed. And maybe I won't run it down now. I'll wait and see if Carl or Julie show up and they can sign it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. 151 Wickham Ave, forestry timber cutting.
Oh, do you want to jump back and do the minutes? Are you finished with us, Anna?
Yeah, I'm finished with those.
Okay. Anybody get omissions or corrections to the minutes?
Nope, they look good.
Yeah, I've got a few just edits. One, in the Kimball's update, it says installing the eater main. I think you mean water. I think that happened before. Some
Yes.
of you have the EEW thing. And also in Basin 3, description, it says,
Hello?
Good evening.
hey, good evening.
Greetings.
Mr. Goudreau did reiterate that this clean-out may need to occur again if new sediment loads, blah, 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 but it will be monitored and checked before the town will accept the road. It doesn't say which road it is, so is it Spruce Street?
Want me to say the roads, plural?
All of them?
Well, yeah, because well, that basin gets, I'm not even sure. It's Fraser and Balsam. I can't remember what the roads are.
Okay, well, I'll just insert the road names there. I
Yeah.
think that would be helpful. And other just edit stuff, so minor edits.
Do I hear a motion to, any more discussion on the minutes
No.
from anybody? If not, can somebody make a motion to accept them?
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of June 19th as amended.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Do you want me to run this down to the planning board real quick?
That'd be fantastic.
All right, I'll be right back. Is it the planning board or the selectmen?
I'm sorry, the selectmen.
Okay. All right, I'll be right back.
This guy's on the first floor. Just give it to Keith. He's probably waiting for it, so.
Okay, go back to 151 Wickham Avenue, forest timber cutting.
Just, I don't know if you care to know or not, but they put in a timber cutting plan, so.
Where is that on Wickham Avenue?
It's almost to the Boxborough end of things. As you're driving towards Boxborough, it would be on the right-hand side. Is that Moore Lane, I think?
Yeah.
Near there?
That's the first one before Mrs. Smith's.
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
So they've got all that paperwork and stuff in
Yes,
place?
yeah.
Okay. Nagog Hill Road, 204-770, improvements starting.
Yep, they've got the erosion controls up, which I looked at last week, and actually met with Concord Water out there today, just to run through. So you may have noticed parts of Nagog Hill Road are closed right now. But they won't be getting to the stuff down by the reservoir for at least a month, probably.
That's where there's a culvert or something underneath there that they did some work on a while ago, isn't it?
Right at the far, yeah, almost at the Acton line.
Okay. 300 Foster Street, completion.
Again, just if you care, they're basically done. They've installed the plantings that they need to do at the berm that they did at the bottom, and I went and looked at those. So they did a good job with all this bad weather. They managed not to make a mess of things, so, on that steep slope.
25 King Street, possible septic system issue.
I think you may have seen the emails on that. The Board of Health, allegedly, or perhaps there's been some overflows that have been getting into the wetland and down to, I think that's Reedy Meadowbrook, I'm not sure what's in there. But the Board of Health is coming down on them, so I'm not sure if the commission felt any need to do anything as well. I told Jim Gareffi that if he needs an additional leverage or anything, the CONCOM can do it, but the water department is after them too, obviously, because they got wells in the area, so.
Yep. Now, just confirm, that is the area where the vet Littleton Hospital, Animal Hospital is?
I'm not exactly sure where all the different pieces of infrastructure are, but yeah, it's between the vet and the mobile and the Dunkin' Donuts, and there's, I guess, the mobile mart type
So it's a
stuff.
joint system?
I'm not
don't think
positive.
so. I think it's two separate parcels.
Both of them contributing to that?
I have no idea.
Okay, so
Yeah.
wherever the problem is, they're dealing with it, I guess.
The Board of Health, Jim Gareffi's got the plan to know what the design was,
Okay.
and he has written a letter and talked to the Board of Health, and I said, oh, we'll do something right away. When they were told they were going to lose their food service license if they didn't do something, so.
All right.
All right. MACCE handbook subscription.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody had thought more if they would want a subscription to the handbook.
I would definitely want subscription.
Anybody else want it? It's $15 a year, I think.
You know, they sent me that free one, and I had to activate it by June 30th, and I totally slipped, so I
did
don't
too.
deserve one.
Blackball.
What exactly is it?
It's,
Well, that was that big notebook you were giving her.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I
the
sort of
updated
print
one.
all of it, but.
What's
you know,
that?
You can search things in it. It's much better to use it online than probably a paper copy, but if you want to read about conservation restrictions, you can find it. If you want to read about changing wetland lines, you know, you can search it. They go through everything you could possibly want to know. So I've used it.
It might be helpful to me, I'll take a copy.
I've used it in all walks of my life, frankly, from all angles, so.
Oh,
You know what would be really convenient is if we got a subscription and have it on the website or something. Is that possible?
I don't think so.
So that you don't each person have to purchase their
I
own?
think when I was, from the Acton CONCOM, I used to get it from them. I finally decided, I guess maybe Littleton should pay for it now. But at that point, it was like a joint subscription, but now it's by individual. So Anna wants one, Carl wants one, Rachel, anybody else? You want to get one?
Yeah,
Get one while it's hot?
yeah, no, sounds good.
Andrew.
I
you're
did
at the
my-
house.
I suppose, I mean,
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I gotta get mine too. 6. Okay. All right,
I don't know
I'll
if
do the
Sa- I
math.
don't know if
and
Sarah
get you to
would-
sign off on this.
Okay.
I don't know, it's Sarah's.
It might make sense for her to wait till the fall, because I think it's a yearly thing. So if she's not gonna use it this summer, you can sign up for it anytime you want to.
Oh.
We just happen to have the dues ready, so here's a good time to do it. That's what that was.
And I see the standardized special order of conditions. Have we,
Which I assume you want to kick down the road.
Yes.
Are we ever gonna?
Basically, I have just taken the ones that were most recently really hammered out for Cooper and thrown in a couple other things that were floating around, and that's what I'm using. So if that's okay with you guys, I'll just keep going ahead and use it. But if someone wants to actually take a look at it and think about it, and I have a list of other things that other commissions do, if someone wants to dig in, it's there.
Okay.
this
Otherwise,
is,
I'm going to take it off.
this is kind of to do with our regulations too, right?
Bylaw. That's,
By law.
yeah.
Not a tiny bit, because we really don't have that much. Where are the pages for the selectmen to sign? Well, I thought you'd get your own pages, so. Now Keith is asking me the rest of his paperwork.
Okay. All right. Guess we better get along with the regular agenda. Agenda note, hearing public noticed heard at 7:30 for 6 Cottage Way, 25 Porter Road, and 323 King Street have been rescheduled. Okay, 7:35, which is at 20 minutes of 8 at this point. Continued public hearing, notice of intent, 136 Mill Road, U36-14D, replacement septic system and house addition. Somebody want to speak to that?
I'm here, my husband's coming with the plans, so we did revise them to put it on the other side of the house. So I think Amy and Doug did a walkthrough of our property Wednesday, correct? No, yeah, Wednesday.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And so the only issue is that to make an entranceway to the addition, there is a little bit of area that is within the 50 feet, and the plans will show it.
Can you please step up to the microphone?
Oh. 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 So I'm on TV, okay. And unfortunately, our engineer is at another meeting in Amesbury, so that's why he forwarded us the documents and we got it through. So hopefully Mark will be here very shortly with the plans. We did get the DEP notice, at least for the wetlands, I don't know, or for the septic. I don't know if it's that
Yeah,
pretty
we got the
standard.
file numbers.
You're all set with that, okay, so that
For
came in
all
today.
the projects tonight, got file numbers.
So I don't know until Mark gets here if you guys want to, he's literally left Staples and be here any minute, so I don't know if you want to go to the next person and then,
That's not exactly easily, because it's about 10 minutes difference on it.
I printed them out on small paper. If you guys want to see in the meantime. So this is the house here and then the proposed addition, and what we did was we angled, because unfortunately within the 50 feet we have a chimney, and then it would have been in the middle of our room for a doorway. So if we put the doorway here leading to the addition, we just go that line right there. I don't know if you guys can see it too well. It's a pen or paper. It goes along that curve, yeah, so it's just angled to be able to put a doorway in there, and the 50-foot line is right there.
Is that the revised 50-foot line?
Yes, I believe he revised to the bank.
Later this afternoon?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Where was it previously?
He had only done the 50-foot line to where the wetlands
Over
were,
here, right.
yeah, when it was on this side. So now we put the proposed addition over here, and then he just carried the
You
50-foot
did
line.
the L shape.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So instead, I don't know, if I could probably use
Sure.
your pen since Mark's coming with the other one. Sorry, everyone. Hopefully this isn't on TV. So the line that would be here, because our house is right here, we have a chimney there, and then we have a door, basically that's the middle of our room. So we're hoping to put the door of the addition there and then walk in, but the 50-foot line is here.
Right,
Okay.
But again, we'd be hitting a chimney to try and make an entranceway.
right.
So, thank you.
A little bit, if I can see it. So the 50-foot is,
Right there. Right across, the yellow, or not the yellow, but,
okay, yep, I just want to make sure, I was looking at the
Yeah,
plan
right
upside
there.
down, so.
so this part here would just be in, within the wetlands, but again, it's to be able to make a doorway.
In the buffer or in the wetlands?
I'm sorry,
Buffer.
in the buffer, excuse me, yeah.
Yeah, 50, yeah.
So I don't know if we can get approval for that, or if we need a waiver for that.
But what
or-
about the intermittent stream over here? I remember there was one over here. Did he do the 50 from there?
I believe he did on the larger plan, but I believe that it's well beyond.
Yeah, when we stepped it out, we thought it was.
I need to
Yeah.
step out for 1 second to print something.
It was pretty well beyond, he had said. This was the one down
Oh,
the
that's
driveway.
really teeny.
This is page 2. I'm like, that's why I'm trying to show you guys just page 1. Mark, can you get here? But that was way over here.
Yeah, over
and he
there,
didn't-
right.
He didn't put that in because it wasn't
So what is within the 50? Can you just tell me what is?
within the 50. It's
Yeah,
going
what-
to be basically just like a triangular entranceway so that we can get into the house because the way that our
And
house.
how much into the 50 does it go?
Scale.
No.
Well, this is the 50 of the yellow. The yellow's the
Right.
50.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, our half of our house is, or I'd say a quarter of our house is already in the 50 as it is.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah, so
10
that-
feet, looks like, if
So
this,
you basically,
Using the
your house is
inches and
already in the
scale bar.
50.
Right.
and
But
this-
again, the way that our house is, which kind of, has.
So that what
we
you're
have a
putting in does
chimney
not,
here. we can't put an entranceway there. 'Cause it's
so
already
what you're
chimney.
doing right now does not extend any further than your house into the
Correct, correct.
50.
And we made it as an angle
Right.
to be able to come in so that we're not cutting more into the 50. 'Cause
I think
we don't
that's
need-
fine.
We need
Yeah.
to do anything. That way we just make an entranceway right into
Yeah.
our addition, which would be right
Yeah,
over there.
that makes sense.
So,
Right, I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah, that
watch, we
worked out.
printed all those out and just wanted to read them. Well, I think Amy needed everything on file anyway, so they will be here.
So you got the question answered about that other wetland?
Yeah, although it's an unexpected size, I thought it was more like a stream channel, not a blob.
I don't think she got a complete answer yet.
Yeah, it started and it was on someone else's property, so he hadn't hung flags. I think that's why you didn't
Okay.
see it on there. Because it started as something that was more narrow and could potentially be seen as a stream, but then it widened out
Oh,
as it
okay.
went down and back. So he did the rest of it and extended the bank flags a little bit further to make sure that was caught.
So you agreed with the flags that?
Yeah, we
over there?
double-checked the area where, kind of near where the pipe comes out, and there was definitely hydric soils there. We checked another area further down, which was kind of similar, but not quite as wet, and did not have hydric soils. So we just left it as bank further down.
Yeah, they did propose to us 2 options for this, but one of them was gonna have the addition go angular, and I believe, for me, it was gonna take out too many trees on our property, so I kinda like doing the angle beginning and then going straight out to minimize the impact, because we do have a lot of trees and I like them, so.
Now, do you happen to know how many square feet that is in the buffer? You're gonna need to issue a waiver.
Yeah, we are probably gonna need a waiver for that. I think it's only gonna be about 5 feet, and it's not, it's only to where our house line is.
Right.
So we're not extending beyond the house line.
Right, but it's for, and this is where the waivers start getting, because you don't really have a grandfather for an existing structure in there, is in the public interest, necessary to avoid a taking, necessary to prevent a safety hazard, and consistent and least environmentally damage, which I think you're okay with, so there's work within the 50-foot, both presumably probably some grading as well as the house itself. I think the septic system's entirely out, but the septic system also has the public interest
Right.
piece of it. But then the other piece is the stormwater, that if it's more than 1,000 square feet, which it sounds like maybe it's probably not,
No.
then you
No,
need
it's
to
not.
address stormwater as if it,
Right.
according to DEP regulations.
I took somebody's pen, I apologize.
So you primarily got it all covered?
So what waiver would we be under?
This is the first time, I believe, you've issued a waiver for an expansion. The 32 Middlesex, I don't know if you remember that. That was the septic system was in the 50-foot, the house was not, but the house was more than 1,000 square feet, and so they did some stormwater stuff. Foster was public interest, because, the failing system. The fire station had the public interest piece of it. 80 Air was the public interest of enclosing the cement dust. Magog Hill Road, that was working the 50 feet for the driveway, so that was absolutely no alternative for that piece of it. The Harvard Road parking lot, Working the 50-foot for the gravel, again, they had the public interest there, and it was designed to minimize runoff. Cooper didn't have any, Alumni Field was just the parking lot. 3 Washington, what was that? That was replacing, so this is the first addition that would come under this, house addition.
I mean, I think because of the chimney issue, I would think it's
Right here, you see that line?
it's the only
I know, it
alternative.
meets the consistent with the intent, and it meets the least environmentally damaging practical alternative.
Right,
It's a question of how you deal with the first bullet.
but I thought we said, we said and.
Yeah.
So this is the 50-foot line right there.
Oh, so it's basically just touching the 50 foot.
Well, no, it's.
No, it's in.
It's this line, yeah.
Oh,
It's a whole angle.
the house is
The house-
already in.
The house is in, it
Right.
basically matches up to the house.
Right.
oh, I see.
No, it's like 10 feet.
And then that's our chimney. Takes up a little bit more space than that. So we just don't want a doorway in the middle of the room. Like, hey, Mom. So,
Is there any way to make the cut or the door on the inside instead of in the rear, like in the front? Cut the corner there.
Well, we will, well, she's going to have an entranceway to her place too. Is that,
Well, I meant,
Maybe she's talking about cutting off this triangle part, is that what you mean?
no, I mean, like, make it here, make the entryway here.
I never thought of that. Well, I don't know how that would, the septic is over there with the piping, so I don't know how much of a door we'd be able to make.
Where the windows is, you mean?
Yeah, I guess taking out the window in the whole front of the, all the flower, the whole bed.
Or you go over the roof and.
If there's a way we can grant the waiver, I'd be for that.
I'd prefer the waiver, just because if we did the entranceway here and then there's gonna be a door there's almost gonna be two front doors, at least this way she'll be
I
able
mean,
to.
it's mo-
The problem
mostly out
is
of-
meeting the standards of the waiver.
Right.
Because we say public interest and it has to meet all those three
Criteria,
things.
okay.
I mean, whether or not public interest is providing a space for an elderly person, I don't know if we could argue that or not.
That could come up to,
They're
that
gonna
could
get
come
there
to
too.
bite
No,
us.
that's just it, you are
That-
setting a
That
precedent.
could come up
Yes,
to bite
exactly.
us, and I don't think that's a good way to go.
And the other language for under wetland setbacks, the statement is, in order to fulfill the purposes of the bylaw, new activities and structures shall be avoided to the extent practical. Any such activities are permitted shall be restricted as set forth in this section. Now, you could take that to mean this is not a new structure. This is an expansion of an existing structure. But it does mean that you're gonna have to live with this.
And can it be
After
whittled, you know?
after it's gone through all the alternatives analysis and the least damaging, which I think, they have done. So it's getting over that first hurdle.
Could the triangle be
Safety.
reduced a bit, like brought in a tiny bit, just to get over that line?
We can try. I mean, if we were to make the house, the addition smaller, I mean, than the triangle, are you saying to go maybe this way, like this?
Yeah, if it could just be brought in
don't
a
have
couple
any-
feet.
Just to make a
for that?
doorway and then kick out? I bet you they
But
could.
I was just
So if
saying,
you're saying to
it's
go
not-
like this, just to make the doorway into her place and
5
then
square
still stick
feet.
out?
So is what is the purpose of the triangle, just for a door?
Just for a door, just because unfortunately with the chimney, and then, I don't want a doorway to my mother's place in the middle of our living room.
Right.
So the best place to put it is on that side. The least intrusive to our living space. And of course, she'll have an entranceway out here too.
Well, what about the inside, doing the inside option?
Trying that inside option.
Yeah, could you
We can
look at that?
ask. I can ask. I just don't know how much the initial part of the septic needs to be from the house. Like, I don't know if it's a 20-foot type thing from the pipe if we're allowed to build there. I don't know. That would be a question for Doug
Okay,
to do, so.
all right. If you could look at that, that would be
Okay.
optimal.
Oh, of what was submitted, yeah.
Yeah, we just need to be careful granting waivers. It makes sense, you know, looking at it, but it's hard to get over the waiver
Right,
threshold.
okay. Well, we
So-
can ask and see where we're at for trying to do something on that end without disrupting this. Because I could have sworn he said there was something that he had to do some sort of 20 feet from that, but it might be 20 feet from that, which we're fine from. But I don't know.
So I can't quite tell from here, but without the triangle, does the corner of the new addition right here, that's not me, that's over the 50-foot line, right? Right here at this
Yeah,
corner?
it is. I'm sure we can bring that back.
Yeah, so I mean, if
Do
you
it that way,
could
yeah.
do like the triangle, like maybe in a bit, reduce it slightly, I mean, you'd be over the line, and
But we would still need a waiver, though?
I don't think so, because I mean, you'd be totally out of the 50-foot.
Okay,
Yeah, it would be any work, so any grading.
right.
Oh, that's true.
Okay, we can ask. See what we come up with.
Okay. Thank you for coming
So
in.
there's no criteria right now that would fit that waiver possibility?
Well, we have, the first hurdle is the public interest. That's the clincher.
It says safety on there too, it's a few things.
In the
Does that
public
just support-
interest, necessary to avoid a taking, necessary to prevent a safety hazard, or water dependent, and the others. And then it does say back in section 4.2, it talks about new activities and structures. Now, you might be able to write a guidance on what new is, and it also may be, if it's less than a certain % increase of what's already in the 50-foot buffer, or if it's no closer than the existing structure.
Right.
I think we can't go safety because it's not.
I mean,
I'm
it's
saying number of
made
exits
significant
required
changes.
Right.
and then.
Oh, they have,
That's
it
all-
definitely,
that's what
you
it's
guys have made a
about.
good effort to accommodate, and we appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just hoping to try and get work on the septic started as soon as possible, so that's, we're trying to get this ironed out.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Okay.
made a good effort.
Oh, absolutely.
If that's not the.
I know, but
Yeah.
it's
If
like
in the
they've tried to
before this, we'd be no problem, right? Before we had the bylaw, no problem. But we have to
Yeah, we have to be really careful.
be careful with the bylaw.
Well, in the meantime, let me go back to town council and ask them specifically about this, about expansions, if it's possible to write in, if you're so choose, a policy, which eventually may become part of the regulations, but for now you can write a policy. So,
What, a
again.
case by, you talking about a case-by-case policy?
Well, no, not a somewhat standard that an extension, an expansion, an addition is not necessarily a new structure if it meets these criteria. I don't know.
Will you let us know, Amy?
Might be worth thinking about.
Well, I guarantee it won't happen fast.
What's that?
I guarantee you it won't happen quickly.
Right, no, I understand. Do you want to keep these in the meantime?
Yes,
or
please.
just- Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you have copies for yourself?
We have copies, yeah, we're all set, so. Okay, when is the next meeting?
July 24th.
24th? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yep.
Thank you so much. You don't want that, do you?
I don't know, is it?
It's going to the 7:50 hearing, which is almost 8 o'clock now. Public hearing, notice of intent, 204-8, XX 6 Cottage Way, U26-8, new septic system well and possible expansion of cottage. Somebody want to speak to that? Hmm?
Want to
Hi, I'm John Barbadaro, Apple Valley Homes, and I'm going to be doing the work for her.
Okay, let's sit down.
You just signed your CR. Back to yours.
I've got a second one of those too.
And I think there might be a lot of butters here, perhaps, so if you want to stand up and see anything, I guess.
Yeah. You're more than welcome to come up and look. Send it
I'll
out.
do that. If you want.
This is the other.
Maybe you guys can go up and look at it.
Oops.
And did everybody sign in? Just make sure you do that before you leave also.
I assume there was some people who went out on a site inspection.
Yep. It was Andrew, Rachel, and I. Well, I'm next.
Okay. Somebody want to start?
So, yeah, I don't know how you want me to start, explain what's
Sure.
going on. Well, here is the existing cottage, and here's the existing access way to the cottage. The existing access way is not conducive for the necessary vehicles that needed to put in a well or a foundation or emergency vehicles. So I want to change the driveway so that it will actually end up going over the design septic system. And what's the other component of that? And also by moving the driveway, it puts the access way completely on my property. Right now, I'm actually cutting over onto my neighbor's property to access the cottage, and I'd like to put that all on my property. And the septic system has been approved, and I've got on here, the engineer originally put the well 25 feet off of the existing cottage. But by having the well there, it limits me if I need to do an addition on that side. So I've got a preferred location of my well, which is actually outside the 100-foot buffer of Fort Pond. And there's two wetland or areas of interest. There's Fort Pond, and then there's also the intermediate stream.
Did you, with the proposed new well, did you include the connection to it?
Yes, and it's only like not even 5 feet within the 100-foot buffer. So I've got that drawn on here. So.
Okay. At the site walk, we discussed what kind of erosion controls you're going to use, and
Yeah, and we also, well, that was, I think, just the silt socks. And then except for the area where, for the driveway
yeah.
here. And I also drew a little bit of a retaining wall where we'll use the existing rocks on site. And it was proposed to do that because to widen, there's a cluster of trees right here, and it makes it a very tight turn. And so if those trees can come down, then this driveway in this area can get expanded enough so that a fire truck or a concrete truck or the well truck can get down this narrow area safely. And I drew in the proposed retaining wall for that. And it was explained to me that if we didn't use, the natural rocks to build, and I think we're only going to need to go 2 feet high to hold in, I would have to be within 5 feet of the wetlands, whereas this is, I think it's 20 feet from the wetland delineation line.
Okay.
So the proposed addition, what's the closest point to the pond?
The closest point to the pond is here. And the proposed addition, coming into this, I do not know what I'm going to be doing yet with the cottage completely. A lot has to do with the well. If I can't get a well that'll pass here, I may have to move the well into the 100-foot buffer. And if I have to put a well over here, I'm limited into my space because I've got the 50-foot boundary line from my neighbors, plus there's a lot of trees here the woodland buffer that I want to keep. And so if I end up putting my well over here, that means I can't put an addition on this side, so the only place that I can do anything would be over onto this side. So that's where I've kind of got these three areas, and a lot's going to contingent upon where I can put the well. And,
Right. So when you say the ponds, is it the edge of the water, or is it, what are you using as your basis?
I think he used the edge of, because where the water of the pond is, and then it's the bank, I think he used the edge of the bank for the high, yeah.
Top of the shoreline.
Top of the shoreline,
Bank?
yeah.
Okay.
Now, I'm sorry if I missed this, but these are alternative additions, or are they all part of it, same, one addition?
I was given the advice, put out there, what are your possibilities?
Because when she was
I remember
informally
that.
before,
Yeah.
you wanted to see something, I said,
Yeah.
go for it all.
Yeah.
You probably
Yeah.
have to come back, but at least you guys can be at least
Yeah.
comfortable.
I
and-
see.
So these are the areas that I would expand. The back side of the cottage, which is closest to the existing, I want to expand on this side because of the grade, and I really don't want to do a lot of changing in the existing grade around the cottage. So if I actually expand on this back side, then the height of the addition will allow for the grading to stay close to its existing. And then that means the existing on either side of the cottage will be able to stay, as well as the grading in the front. And on the, what is this, the northern side addition, that one's expanded out a lot more. I may want to do an addition on that side, but I don't think I necessarily need one that big, but I want one that big if I can't do the addition on the other side, because if I have to do the well. So that's why I made that as big as it is. So,
essentially, it'd be one addition, right? Whatever one you pick.
of these, well, it could be a combination of them. It really is one of those things where, quite honestly, the structure of the cottage and then putting the energy into making the plan and how it's going to work, a lot's going to change. The way that I've approached this property is I've stayed on the property at different times in the season to really get an understanding of the way that the property works and the way that the wind blows and where the sun rises, and really get a feel of things. When putting in this driveway, it's going to change things because I am going to have to cut trees down. And so that might change in terms of how we relate to the property. So in terms of the design of how I want the house, it could be different. So my priority is to be able to get the driveway in, the well, and the septic in, and with that in time, it's going to formulate how I want the house to be. So.
Now, when you change the curve of the driveway,
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen to the original shape of the driveway? Is that going to stay, or are you going to
Goes on to someone
revegetate?
else's property.
No, not this part.
Oh, this.
Well, part of this part does, but
Yeah,
this
part
part,
of it does.
Yeah, this
Looks like
part
septic-
here is
septic tanks.
the tanks.
the tanks. This will probably all eventually end up being, whether it's going to be opened up. I mean, there's just one tree in that area that I'll have to take, but that's it's outside the 100-foot buffer, and it's going to probably be landscaped of some sort.
Well, your septic tanks are there, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. So and those
You're
are
not going to be parking on top of them.
no.
I would just like to see even your erosion controls being outside of the 50.
Okay, I can do
Because
that.
50 is a no disturb, even erosion control.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. I wasn't quite sure where you guys would want them, so, all right.
What is the closest point to the new road to the wetland?
It's this one right here, and, so it is It's 10, 15, 17 and a half feet. Right? Right there. And the way that this is that this is actually at a lower grade than this is. And this is a completely defined line because of the pitch and how it goes up.
Mhm.
So,
And then this additional work is within how close to the wetland?
this one here, so we're at 25? No, that's 30. That's 20 and that's another 10, so that's 30 feet.
Strange that this guy, I want to see you go across to her property, but jerk.
Did you get to see this well enough?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was looking
Yeah.
at this one.
Are there any comments from abutters?
Does anybody have any comments?
Hi, good evening. My name is Rob Edsel. I am an attorney in Westford. I grew up in Littleton down the street from this property. I'm here tonight representing Jody and Ken McDonald, who are the current abutters to this property at 42 Shagbark Lane, which is the property where, yes, correct.
Oh, where the driveway runs
Where
to?
the driveway runs over,
Okay.
correct. We are here tonight because we have a number of concerns about the submission of the plan. I think that there are a number of abutters here tonight to talk about the general impact of the Fort Pond area. I grew up on Neshoba Road. A close friend of my parents had a place that's a couple doors down, and I never knew that these lots have frontage on Fort Pond Road and go all to towards the lake. The average size of the lot is about 7 acres, although they are fairly skinny. The original development plan proposed that a number of the houses were going to be built along Fort Pond and the road, and then they were going to have a number of cottages. I think that my clients and a number of the people that are here tonight are concerned about cottage development and location of the septic system. As to the plan itself, there are a number of concerns. We're looking at a plan that's exceedingly close to various wetlands, and we're taking a guess on a piece of paper that's colored in. It's certainly not to scale. Essentially, we took the original plan from the septic plan, and we've drawn various lines over it. We're exceedingly concerned about the distances to the wetlands. There's nothing set forth relative to where our erosion controls are going to be, where exactly our roads are going to be located. We have 3 or 4 different options relative to an addition, and we have a number of kind of just general procedural submission requirements. We had a letter that was submitted, which I believe
I got a few copies here.
you have from Ted Doucette, who raised some concerns about the septic system design and the,
Did you bring any extra copies of that letter?
I brought one. I certainly can give that to you.
I didn't
Yep.
bother printing it out.
I know that it was submitted to the commission. So Ted Doucette has raised a number of concerns in the letter. What our goal is for tonight is to say that although we are not necessarily opposed to an addition onto this property, we certainly are opposed to the way in which this plan has been submitted. I think to ask the Conservation Commission to make a decision based upon the plan in front of them is quite a big ask. This area is exceedingly environmentally sensitive. As I said, I grew up in Neshoba Road. I live on Nobbs Pond in Groton, and I've spent my whole life there as a summer place. And we've had, in the last number of years, our lake at Nobbs Pond had become absolutely overwhelmed by invasive weeds. I know that there have been a few invasive weeds at Fort Pond which have been addressed. The town of Groton, our lake got so bad that the town authorized $100,000 through town meeting for spending. And as you drive around the lake, you can definitely see where septic systems are located because you see weed plumes. We've had a great weed eradication program on the lake, and the quality of living on our lake has increased tremendously. We're worried about that concern here, and what we are looking for on this plan is possibly locating the septic system as far away from the water as we can. There are numerous other locations that they can look at. Those are set forth in Ted Doucette's letter. There would be a requirement to pump the effluent up the hill, but it would avoid a lot of the other impacts that we have in the lake area.
You're talking about the septic system as proposed here?
Which has been
And approved.
Correct. Was approved 3 years ago.
Okay.
Is that our jurisdiction? to
Not-
talk about
No.
the septic?
So your jurisdiction is
Yeah, I
that
didn't-
that whether or not
It's
you
outside
can-
of the 50.
Yeah, it's
so
out-
that's
I mean, is
okay.
that something we
Correct.
should be discussing, like the,
No, but I think that
The
we,
presumption is usually that if a septic system has been approved, then the septic system design
Is
is
sufficient.
is sufficient.
and
Also,
that-
you say it's not to scale, but I see a scale of 1:20, and I believe she said it was a copy from a blueprint. So,
This is from the engineering plans.
yeah.
this is a hand-drawn sketch.
Well, it's only hand-drawn as to the addition and coloring, coloring of it.
I don't know that.
The septic and
That's-
the house location are to scale
Yeah,
and were
to
put
scale.
on by
And
the
our
surveyors.
concern is that the rest of the plan might not necessarily be to scale. We don't know,
You mean the wetland and the 50-foot line?
correct?
Right, so if you
The
look at.
wetland was on the plan,
You move it.
the approved plan.
So if I can add,
No,
this
thank
is Ken McDonald, 42 Shagbark Drive. If you look at the plan that you have here, there's actually a flaw in it. If you look at the topology of the grading, you have no grading on that plan. So let's look at the plan as submitted with the grading. You'll see here, the edge of the wetlands is 108 feet above sea level. It's 108 feet high spot here. But as you look down here, downhill, it's
I'm sorry,
107
where is
foot.
this, in
Sure.
relation to this?
Right there,
Okay.
right? So if you look at the topology of the map, you don't have to be an engineer to get this.
Excuse me, Ken, may I
Can I
ask?
talk? Can I talk?
Excuse me, I'm just trying to find clarity as to what piece of paper you got that from.
There.
Where did this come from?
This is your septic plan that was approved by the Board of Health.
So you took a photocopy of one section of that?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted some clarity on that.
Yep. Just to blow it up, and so people could see.
So
it.
that's not to existing scale, it's not 1 inch equals 20 feet then?
It doesn't map this, all it is proximity to where the septic system is.
Okay, so, but it's
Okay.
not the exact,
And this is the septic system here.
You got it.
okay, it's
So
been
the point I really want to make here is, this is a grade of 108 feet above sea level, 108 feet above sea level, it's 107 feet. You don't have to be an engineer to know the water flows downhill. This 107-foot section goes right up. If this is the edge of the wetland, this is incorrect. So if you look at the topology, that is not the edge of the wetland. The edge of the wetland is more to right to the edge of the septic system.
I don't believe that. It was done with hydraulic studies of the dirt and the soil. It doesn't
Look at
matter
it
what the
right
grade
here.
is.
Yeah, it's
It matters what
plants
the
and-
height of soil is.
Plants and
The wet-
soil, yeah.
Well, we did, we
Had nothing to
walked the
do with
line when we
grade.
were out there, that's part of the reason we went out there and approved the flags.
Yeah.
They were still there.
So what I would request as part of this hearing is a peer review of the wetlands to ensure that we actually are dealing with accurate information.
Who flagged the wetlands?
Mark Donahoe from Acton Survey.
Mark Donahoe, who was his consultant, do you know, who was his wetland?
Mark has got extensive...
Mark did most of the
Yeah.
delineations.
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, given that, if it wasn't a wetland, if it wasn't a biologist that delineated the wetlands, then
Well, we looked at it when we were out there 2 weeks ago, or whenever it was. We looked at the flags, so.
And who put the flags up?
I'm sorry?
Who put the flags up?
The surveying
Yeah,
company,
you said that
It was
the survey-
Acton Survey,
And
Mark.
3 years ago?
3 years ago.
Yeah.
they're still there, same place.
They're usually 5 years is the limit to, usually, generally, of what we would consider
I
a
live right
line.
next door, I haven't seen those flags for 3 years there.
What you mean, when do you think they were put up then?
Recent.
were they put up recently based on an existing flag? Was it just a new flag placed over?
I don't know. My point is that I think the wetland boundary as it's defined on that plan is questionable. And that's why I'm requesting a peer review.
You willing to pay for it?
It's not my obligation.
Wetlands was delineated, and it was done with hydric soil samples, and it was well done. You people walked it, and it's very obvious where the wetlands are, and they were flagged properly.
Amy, what's your opinion?
I thought the wetland flags were fine, and I'm trying to remember what they looked like. I think there were some old ones that may have been refreshed. You could see it.
Well, that's what I was wondering, were they, you can put a new flag over an existing flag if it's in the same
I
location.
didn't refresh any of them.
Yeah, they had been in place.
Any other comments?
I think that the handwritten, well, we've already gone over it, but I think the handwritten nature of our plan at this point is really inadequate.
People can provide there's not a rule that says you have to necessarily have a professional engineer stamp it.
I understand that,
It
but
can be done by
our
the-
concern is that there are so many things going on this area. That's not just the lake that has our only resource area. There's intermittent streams, there's topography changes, there's a sequence of work that doesn't specify really anything relative to our erosion controls, and even if it's outside of the buffer areas, I think that it's important to figure out what the plan calls for. She has made statements along the lines of saying that we're going to reduce the number of trees that we're going to take down. My clients would like to know where those trees are.
Well, that's a fair question.
Trees are.
They're marked on the plan.
Yeah, we went, actually, in our site walk, she had marked the trees that were going to come down. So we did look at that.
I don't know as though those are all the trees that need to come down, or
Well, if there's additional trees that need to come down, she would have to come back in front of us, if this
But they might be out of
plan was approved.
I guess my concerns are they might be out of your jurisdiction, but we still should have some input on where those trees are.
Oh, If
We
it's
wouldn't have
if it's out of our
jurisdiction,
jurisdiction,
yeah.
we wouldn't have anything to say. So anything that's beyond 100, we can't discuss.
Yeah, and it's also not our job to, prevent somebody from using their property and
And that's not what our
access.
goal is either. We just want to have a solid plan that we know that we're basing it on. That's what the goal is. And the
Well, from
goal
what
is
we
not
know,
to-
as we said, from what we know, she copied this from a blueprint. I see signs of it up here.
And I don't think
She
we're at
has
the
a
point,
scale.
we're not at the point of approving this, we're just discussing it.
And I guess for the purpose of discussing is what we would like as a director from the Conservation Commission to come back with an engineer plan. And I understand that we might be asking for something that isn't typically required, but based upon the fact that it's such an environmentally sensitive area, we do want to know what we're dealing with.
Personally, I don't quite understand why she has to move the driveway.
Well, that's a good
I mean,
question. Well, I
yeah.
don't think we've got to that total
I mean,
discussion yet.
He, the adjacent abutter, is using her property, and she only needs to use a short distance to go across his. I don't see what the big deal is.
Well, she's saying it's for emergency vehicles. This turning radius here,
Yeah, but that's,
And also the one down below, that,
Oh.
it's just, it's the well truck and a fire truck can't make it through that turn down below.
The driveway is probably the biggest issue on the plans, right? Because that's the closest point to a resource area.
Correct.
So that to me is where a lot of our discussion should be focused. And if you can use an existing driveway, there may be no reason to modify the driveway. Because then you're,
but she's already gone.
but then you are
through the line.
impacting, then you are within the 50
right over a septic system.
for, and what's the justification for?
With H20 loading, it's designed, going to be designed to carry that load. It's also, that's where the construction will be disturbed, all the ground will be disturbed there anyways. It would make an ideal place to put the road, the driveway. And also, the well truck cannot make these turns to get over here to put a well in. So a temporary would have to be done, and it just seems, at that point, why don't we just make the driveway completely on the property of the house? And the area of the septic, is beyond the 50-foot buffer there on that part of it. I understand the board's concern
This line.
in this area right
That's the
here,
well,
But
I think, right? Or is it-
bringing the drive over this,
What's
it's
this
going to
line?
be disturbed anyways.
Dash below.
That's this well.
100 foot from the well.
And, yeah, because this is 100-foot radius from that well, and that's 100-foot radius, because it's got to be 100 feet.
Could you
from
speak up,
septic.
please?
He was asking about what are the dotted lines on the plan, and they're the 100-foot radiuses for the well in relation to the septic.
So if I could make another comment, I agree the road is a concern, and if you folks, if we were at the site right now, you would see that the proposed plan actually cuts that corner, and there's probably a 15-foot drop into the stream from that location.
That's
And
what-
it's,
But,
That's what this is for,
right here,
yeah.
the retaining wall.
That's what he's talking, yeah, that's his.
So, right now, the plan has for a natural stone retaining wall. There's nothing in there about where the rainwater runoff's gonna go, nothing about grading, nothing about load carrying for that road. And it literally is right next to the wetland. It's within the 50-foot of the wetland.
17 feet, you just
Yeah.
measured.
It's a
I actually think
driveway,
that, I think that
not a road.
17-foot suggestion is generous. I think it's a lot closer than that.
Well, actually, you were going to talk to your brother about
So-
load-bearing stuff.
So that's what, he came out and, the way that we just looked at it is, with it being 12 feet, that would be wide enough for a fire truck and for the well truck to come down. And so this is the location that I have on the map I measured from the existing road. And I actually flagged it. Everything's flagged. It's been flagged since our meeting. This is where he came up with using, well, on one of the maps it shows up here, there's a big pine tree on one side that we can save and another pine tree on another. So to save both of those trees, we can move the driveway over a little bit. And so then to cut that, so all of this I measured on site and then I measured onto the map. And so, I don't have the distances from me, but the retaining wall is where he cited it on site in connection. And he used this, I think it's a hemlock or a pine tree here and that utility tree here as kind of the site. He's like, if we build the retaining wall here, that'll give us enough, and we'll use the natural rocks that we'll have to use, that will be moving anyways to build that. And then,
Contour lines.
and by doing so, we don't have to go that far. It'll only be 2 feet high. It'll be a naturalized setting using, the rocks are been there already. And what it does is it keeps it away from the wetlands. And with the design of it, we can then use, because of the way that the grade is, you can use drainage rocks in here. So the swale that you can put off the edge of the driveway, that will collect the water, and then the drainage rocks, so it'll go through and it will
Goes
filter
up.
anything. And it's
Probably draining down there.
and that intermediate stream is already collecting all the runoff water from 42 Shagbark Drive. And so it runs down their driveway, and it also runs down their field and cuts across my property and runs into that stream. So that stream already is handling all the existing runoff from Shagbark Drive itself and from 42 Shagbark.
So if I could make a comment here.
Sure.
It's actually, the concerning part is this corner here. It's extremely close to the culvert that goes under the road, and
The culvert's actually over here, Ken.
Yeah.
It's off my property. The culvert's over here.
yeah, so
And the culvert, actually, the culvert's here, because see this here? The culvert's here.
That's that line across the road, the driveway.
The culvert's
Right here.
actually here. Yeah, this line right here, that's
Yeah.
that's the culvert.
Okay.
So that's all the way on Peter Tropiano's property.
and you're saying that there would be a wall right there?
No, we're talking about right here.
So what would,
That's silt fence.
That is because of the runoff from your property cuts across through here. And so this driveway entrance needs to be regraded. And when we're opening this up here, I put erosion control so that if there is any type of runoff that's gonna go through there, I can put that outside the 50-foot buffer. But with the way that the landscape is, I thought that was the best place for it. So that's all that is. That's erosion control.
Yeah, it would be better if that was outside.
Yeah, and I can scoot it back out.
And
I think
maybe
the
hook it
bit-
up with the rest of the
what just doesn't
erosion
make
control.
sense here is if I live there, it's on the other side. And
They
these
visited
two
you.
dimensions just don't seem accurate at all. They really don't.
Well, I guess we could ask to have somebody review it. Yeah.
This line right here, this 50-foot buffer,
It's a
That's-
stamp, it's based on a stamp.
it's a stamped engineered plan.
It is the base for the septic plan.
Which I'm already requesting a peer review of, because I don't think that's accurate.
This line, though, you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody has to pay for the peer review, and it's not us.
It's not my obligation.
No, it's
You
not.
requested it.
It's not our obligation either.
I've already paid for it.
But if you request it, you can pay for it. That's one, we can easily accept that, if you're willing to do that. I think the bigger issue in my mind is the road. And you already have an existing road going down to your cottage, which has been used.
I don't have.
It's not because you want to expand the house. I'm not sure if that shouldn't put us in a position of having to make a decision on going closer to the wetland, expanding the road and going closer to the wetland.
It's
So-
not.
so
Well,
from-
she has been very careful about what is going to be needed to put in the well, and the septic system is, the trucks have to get in there.
And a fire truck can't get up the driveway.
The fire trucks and the well
For
truck, because
roots,
Fred
for-
Field had the same issue. The biggest problem was getting the fire trucks and the well in there, well trucks.
Yeah, but right now, the road's serviceable for the cottage,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
For a fire truck? No. A fire truck can't get down
It's been an existing.
Oh, yeah.
Condition.
Right, it's been an existing condition,
But you
so.
can't build the septic and the well without improving the driveway. And you could then rip it all out again, I guess, but I think that's kind of where the trade-off is.
It kind of comes to the point of who's got the easements across whose property, too.
Nobody. There's no legal, I have no legal right to be on Ken and Jody's property. They've given me permission, and I've given them theirs, and it's all based upon permission. They at any point in time could say, we no longer want you to use this. And and he has threatened to do that already with me. And so if he blocks that, then I have no access to the cottage this
But
way.
you have the same right of blocking him.
I could.
But if I may, yeah, his house is up over here.
Yeah.
He uses this just to get to the water, and so it's
No,
not
that
quite
end.
as important to him
Yep.
as it is to her.
Oh, so he has a separate driveway to his house?
His house driveway comes up here, and his house is up here. He uses this
That's not our
to,
issue.
to access
It's not our
the,
issue. We shouldn't even be talking, it's not our issue.
yeah, exactly.
So my issue is the road and the wetland. That's
You
my
got a
issue.
gentleman who'd like to speak.
But what
Yes,
do you
I'd
think
like
about
to
the
raise a
emergency?
question
the
of
access.
House Road, these cottages
You know, hold,
along.
just 1 second. Were you gonna know something?
Oh, I was just gonna say that she's already spoken to the fact that she can't improve her property by putting a septic system in, which does help protect Fort Pond to have a good septic system. And it's quite significantly away from the actual pond. It is uphill from the house quite significantly. So, anyway, so in order to do that, she has to have the road to accommodate the vehicles that she needs and also emergency vehicles. That's legitimate, in my view.
I just wanted to
I'm
quote,
sorry, your name?
my name is Ralph Abbott, 26 Fort Pond Road.
I'm sorry, Ralph Abbott?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a question on these cottages that were built almost 100 years ago in some cases that are down close to the pond are seasonal access. At the moment, they're not usable in the winter because the roads that get down there are not plowed. I'm just asking the question here, does the applicant intend to pave this road and plow it all winter? And if so, it'll be the only one down there that's plowed down to the waterfront. Just asking the question.
I'm not planning on paving it, and I'll actually be plowing out because I'll be plowing the driveway myself. So when it's a year-round home, I'll be living there with my plow truck, so I'll actually be plowing out of the
So
driveway.
I'm just wondering, is it realistic that a fire truck can get down there in the winter?
Yeah,
You think? Okay.
I don't see why not. In Vermont, they do it.
I hope so.
Everywhere where there's not paved
What?
driveways.
You better hope so if she has a fire.
Can the improvements to the road be put on the other side of the road?
The one thing that happens, and
Instead
it,
of towards the wetland?
the topography lines on the engineering map will show it more clearly, but it's a steep grade with a ledge outcropping, and my concern is if we start cutting away on that, I don't want to jackhammer or anything like that because that ledge outcropping, their house is up here, and I don't know if that's connected to that, and I think that would actually impinge more on the structure of the landscape underneath if I had to jackhammer this ledge in here. And that's a lot more work and a lot more equipment than I think is necessary, or that I would feel that I want to do that close to the wetlands. So, I mean, we might be able to, but we have no idea what we're gonna encounter on that side. And I don't think we're gonna get as much room as we need to. I know that you had wondered about this when we first looked at it and weren't there on the site walk. I think when you see the site walk, it's a lot more, 'cause I have pictures if you want to see what
How
it's.
many other cottages along the lake are there like this? I'm
There are
concerned about the future.
19 lots along the
What's going to
shoreline.
happen in the future of every other
Well,
one?
I think what,
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't.
Are we
prevent it.
setting ourselves up?
We can't prevent it.
You can-
That's why the abutters are here.
well, excuse me, can I say one thing in regards to that? My lot is much different than a lot of the other cottages because I have direct access to an already existing paved road to set my driveway up. And so that way, the infrastructure is already here for this to come into place, and it makes sense for this to be a year-round home. All the other places, except I think one, which is my neighbor right next door, has already a year-round house on the property. So the concern about them developing their cottage as a year-round house isn't really, I mean,
It's already happened.
yeah, and their access way is Cottage Way, goes along the water, and that's how they access their cottages. So that is different. I'm being able to do this all on my own property. It has no impact in terms of anybody else. Nobody else has a right of way to this, whereas Cottage Way, everybody has a deeded right of way to that. So.
But I must say also, Carl, we don't really have a say in, whether that happens or not.
What happens?
I mean, it has to be case by case. Whoever
Well,
brings it
that's
to us-
what I was concerned about. I was looking down the line for case by case. I didn't want to set the precedent here because of something that might come up in the future.
Yeah, the
So that's my only concern there.
If I
Is-
could add to that before
Yeah.
we leave that point, because I think that's really important. I mean, Fort Pond, as you know, and as the folks here in the room will attest, is a pretty special place. And we place no burden on the town of Littleton. We pride ourselves on being self-managed. We don't, this is one of the few situations here. And the reason that the pond has not been a problem is because out of 46 lots on the pond, there's only 6 that have a septic system within 500 feet of the pond. And what we are looking at here in the shoreline is, and I'll give you my wife just went to get a larger picture of this, but if I could hold up for the group. There's 19 lots here that have either cottages or an opportunity to build on the waterfront. And Kristen's is actually the first person on Fort Pond, even though folks have lived on Fort Pond for as much as 40 years. Thank you. And so, to me, this is a tipping point, and that's why there's so many folks here, and I'm sure if there was room, a bigger room, we'd have more people. This truly is a tipping point for the community of Fort Pond, because all of these lots are all seasonal cottages or the opportunity to put something there. They all have frontage, these here all have frontage out on Fort Pond Road, opportunity to divide up the lot. They could keep the house up here and sell this portion here. There's a lot that could happen here. But the folks who have been on the pond and live there understand why this is so special, and understand that the reason we don't have a big problem with invasives and the town's not spending $100,000 for cleanup is because there's only 6 septic systems on the entire pond within 500 feet. And those are here. We're in Cottage Lane, this one here, and this one on the point.
Countryside.
And actually, all the black dots that you see here,
Countryside.
Countryside, thank you. All of the black dots actually are all of the septic systems on Fort Pond, which are 19 out of 46
One other thing, I guess, to
lots.
point out in that drawing is the thin lots along, that go from Fort Pond Road, there's a huge elevation there. So that side, one reason there are just cottages down there, I mean, why didn't people build houses there before? It's kind of like very hard terrain coming down a steep slope to the pond area. So the houses that are there are usually way up in the hill, set back, kind of on the grade from Fort Pond. You come from Fort Pond Road, you go up these driveways, the houses are there, and then there's this huge downslope, and there's cottages down along the pond.
Right.
So it's never been really conducive to building on that slope.
Yeah, it would be a struggle. I mean, just widening roads right next to a stream that feed right into the pond. I mean, we have one neighbor who fishes in the pond. He says he fishes all over. And he says you pull up the fish in the bottom of Fort Pond, you look over the bottoms of the fish, there's no parasites. He said it's a clean water pond. We have Camp Neshoba that actually, through the state law, has to have the water tested in the pond every week. Never had an issue in 54 years in business. And so, you have to think about this. Is this going to be a tipping point that changes this natural resource forever just because of some decisions that could have been avoided?
Well, where's your house?
Mine is right here. And my septic system is about 650 feet off the pond. Reason being is Shagbark Drive, which is not drawn here but comes down this way, is a peak. On one side of Shagbark, it flows to the pond. On the other side of Shagbark, it flows away from the pond. Our proposal is, as Rob pointed out earlier, was to actually, when the septic system was approved, it was an alternate site, actually had a faster percolation rate than the site that's being requested here. And that site is on the other side of that peak, away from Fort Pond. It's on the other side of Shagbark Drive.
Well, unfortunately, this septic has already been approved, and we really cannot change it as a commission.
I'm just asking to have you taken into consideration.
You'd have to talk to the Board of Health about that.
There's over 6 acres of land here. You don't have to cram everything into 200 feet from the pond. Because, as you know, all septic systems eventually fail, right? It's just a matter of time. Pardon?
Including yours?
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And there's nothing the town can do.
650 feet from the pond.
Yes,
we're
but
600.
you know how close you are to the intermediate
You
stream?
shouldn't be talking to each other.
Sure,
You
fair
should
enough.
direct this through the
Fair
chair.
And so, at some point, this septic system's gonna fail. The only way that we can actually enforce Title V is if the property turns over. Property haven't turned over, it'll never turn over, people hang on to them. All of a sudden, we're knowingly introducing something that's gonna be a problem for everyone else who lives in the pond and values it.
But if you
And
look
what
at
I'm saying is, this isn't a land restricted requirement. We have 6 acres. All we're asking is that we move it to a site that's more environmentally friendly and safe and would actually be more appeasing to the community.
The state has designed this, and they know that the system can deliver clean water 4 feet from the groundwater. That's why they build them the way they do. 200 feet is beyond any reasonable buffer, even the Rivers Act. So it's pretty much belt and suspended. He might think an extra 100 or 200 feet is going to make a difference. It isn't. And it was approved by the Board of Health. The Neshoba Board of Health engineers reviewed it, they agreed with it, and it was approved here.
I mean, there are many, many, many septic systems that have gone in within the 100-foot buffer of a wetland. Many, within, well, in former days, yeah.
Are people swimming in that
This is
wetland?
adequate, this is adequate from any standard that we've approved in the past, virtually. So we cannot argue your point, with, I'm afraid.
If you were going to do a peer review, who would you recommend?
We can't recommend any
Well, you
specific company.
told us that we would pay for a peer review, and I was wondering who would be on your peer.
We could probably give you a list of,
recommendations.
can we give a list?
We can't.
We can't even give
You're
a
not
list?
supposed to.
I can, they
So then
find somebody.
would it really be a peer review, or would it be our own engineer? I guess that's the,
It should be
A
a
question.
valid engineer, but
Qualified
Certified
engineer. You
engineer.
could probably Google.
but it would be really our engineer, it wouldn't be,
If you're paying, it's your engineer.
right.
If you want to move ahead and you have someone that you would want to use, you might want to run it by the commission and,
Would we have
pick 2 or 3
access,
days.
would our scientists be allowed to go on the property to do the review?
That's up
It's
to the
not our
property
call.
owner.
See, that's why if the town does it, the town has access.
Correct.
We asked a wetland scientist, and he said, ask the town. The town is required to pay if there are questions that are not answered by the plan.
We're not required to pay, we're required to have,
The applicant.
Yeah.
the
Applicant do
is
it.
required. If there are questions that are not answered by the plan, and I do see places where the erosion control is not shown adequately, the house plan itself isn't even complete. The house plan is up in the air. How are you making a decision?
Water runoff from the roof, where's that?
So if they want to hire their own engineer, I think we should allow them to do that. And
that's,
present
the
additional
applicant
information.
has got to have
The applicant
approved,
has
'cause-
to allow them to go on.
Yeah.
If she cares to, if not, then we make a decision based on what information we have.
Some of the board members have been out there and walked the property, And the board's been out on many properties. They do know how to determine wetlands, and they saw the flagging, and they agreed with the flagging. So I don't
It
really...
sounds like it's more than just that.
What, like what?
Well, but there's
That's-
a hand-drawn plan for a retaining wall. That, I mean, if you're,
Is that-
shouldn't there be an engineering design for that?
There's been a long history between my neighbors and I of dissension, and they have threatened that they will do everything they can to stop me from being able to build. And so,
I'm their attorney, that's so not true, that's not what they've said to us in confidence, okay? They have said that we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing for the environment. That's my lawyer-client conversations with
So,
them.
so I don't think we need to hear any of this. We need, what we need to hear is, are we doing another plan? And is the applicant willing to let their experts go on her property? If not, I don't see how they do it.
If you think that a third-party review is called for. Or we could also do another site visit, if you want to get and take a look at it. And you haven't down there.
Yeah, I haven't been up there, I'd check it out.
Yeah,
You
Carl,
know, I
you
mean,
can take
I-
a look at the wetland line if you want. on
I
the
think
side.
that there's questions beyond the wetland line.
Well, just they questioned the scale, but from what we've been told and what we see here, this is a blueprint drawing with the underlying engineered drawing. It's not just hand sketched.
I'm also questioning our erosion control details. Those aren't called out for in the
I
plan.
think
Well,
we
yes,
need
she
to-
has erosion control outlined on the plan.
It's
But I
also
don't
in
know
the-
exactly
it's-
what that's gonna be.
It's in the packet,
Well,
the schematics of the
Right?
site plan.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. It very well may be.
It is.
Okay.
It's also on the engineer's plan as well,
You can appeal.
On the,
You can appeal our decision.
On the septic
So-
plan.
on the septic plan.
Yeah, that's
I think we
erosion
need to
control
consider-
construction only.
Everything prior to making a decision.
The erosion control on the schematic is for during construction. We're talking about when the changes are made, the grading is.
That's construction. So,
This
and
is
I.
a, this is
it's
a
not-
temporary, when you put out the silk bales, that's during construction.
There's also a schematic of the silt socks and the staples in the NOI packet that's separate from the septic plan.
All I saw was a hand-drawn drawing with rocks. It was not an engineering diagram. Taking out trees and ledge within 17 feet of a wetlands based on a hand-drawn sketch.
I'm not taking out ledge 17 feet from the wetlands.
Amy, do you feel this plan, what she's
She's
got
stabilizing,
is,
apparently she's stabilizing her driveway.
Right, so is that slope, shouldn't that slope stabilization be
that's the
an
sketch
engineering,
of the
that's
wall.
also a sketch, a hand-drawn sketch, rather than an engineering
Right.
diagram for a slope stabilization and a retaining wall?
It's less than 6 feet tall. So.
Well, there's no height specified on that.
Hi, my name is Alan Grecula. I represent the Pelham Civic Association. Everybody knows it's a collegiate club. I'm a member of the executive committee. I grew up on the Fort Pond. I turned 63 this year, so I've been there since I've been yay high. And one thing I've always liked about the fact is the water is perfectly clear. Listening to all of you, I understand there might be some personal rancor here. I understand there's other underlying things that may be going on. But I think if everybody steps back a minute and maybe looks at everything again, maybe a little closely, and gets it right, that way then there won't be a problem. I've listened to enough here to think that both sides, our side particularly, has some questions, that I think if you all step back and just look at it again, and look at it a little closely, make sure the measurements are right, it'll work out better in the long run than just blanket, going by what may be there and what may be accurate and what may be not. Thank you.
He's willing to pay for another plan. I'm willing to wait to receive that.
I don't see how it's necessary, and I just see it's a delay in the project. And I'm concerned about the timing.
If
Really
we appeal, it's going to delay anyways, so this to me is the quickest
Well,
path to resolution.
right, they have the option to appeal any decision that's made.
Would you be willing to do a site walk before they do?
I don't think that's the issue. I mean, I have an issue with the road being expanded towards the wetland and the slope.
Would you like to see what
Going
it looks
towards the
like on
wetland.
site to?
I don't need to right now because I can tell by the plan what's here, that what's going on is the road's being expanded towards the wetland, so that's my issue. I can tell, I don't need to be in the field to see that. What I can, if I went in the field, I could look at the wetland delineation, but we have a wetland delineator as our administrator who is very capable, and I have complete faith and trust in her judgment.
Wait, it's on tape.
So, that being said, I would tend to agree that the wetland as shown is probably correct, whether it's shown as an engineered drawing stamped by a PE, that's obviously not.
Well, it's supposedly off her septic plan.
I've got the stamp septic plan right here. If you want to see where it is on here.
Well, where are we going?
And also, I'd like to just point out that her driveway drawing, there's not much room on the other side of the driveway to expand it, and if you go out there, the slope is...
The point is that there's been an existing cottage that's been accessible. She's expanding, making it into a house, which is forcing the driveway to be expanded. If the cottage stayed as it is, be perfectly fine.
Wasn't the septic an issue?
Couldn't get a fire truck down.
But it's been there for years. So whatever fire truck has been trying to get down there, the cottage has been there for how long?
So you're going to stop me from being able to?
I'm not stopping you at all. I'm questioning. I'm not stopping at all. I've posed a question. You're expanding the driveway closer to the wetland. I need to.
I was told that in order to be able to get a concrete truck down there and a well truck down there safely without having any incidences and to keep the wetlands safe, that the driveway should be expanded to 12 feet. So I've laid everything out to 12 feet. Does that mean they could do it at a shorter distance? I don't know, but I'm taking my expert's opinion on what's the best way.
Has the fire
to
department been out to look at it?
They have not, but I have a phone call to be able to.
I would prefer if the fire department goes out and looks at it and then tells us. They're the people that I have to get the fire truck down.
The well truck cannot get down there as it is now.
That's a different story, the well truck as opposed to a
It's
fire truck.
smaller than a fire truck.
It's totally different.
Okay.
It's apples and oranges.
Is it?
Absolutely, one's safety and one's a well.
Yeah.
She's
A well
got
truck's
a
smaller
viable
than a fire
building
truck.
lot here,
Yeah.
and she's trying to
We're
improve.
basing this thing on what,
I
we're
can-
trying to follow the line of logic, which is the road, and why we're expanding the road.
I didn't want to bring the fire chief out there without, if I could.
I would
you know,
bring the
if
fire,
there's-
I would ask the fire chief to
Yeah.
come out, or whoever he assigns to come out and looks at the road. And then you actually have
Well,
the
person
expert
that-
out there.
The person that's designing the road and designs roads.
What if they have a smaller fire truck that can use,
Well, they would have to sign off on a building permit anyway.
Yeah.
All departments. would.
fire departments have all different sized trucks. They have
Right, so
trucks-
ultimately, they have to go out there.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm in the butter on the other side of Kristen's. I had a fire.
I'm sorry, your name?
Peter Tropiano.
Thank you.
I had a fire, my garage burnt down, took the fire engine a half an hour to find it, but that's beside the point. But they did get a fire truck down to my property. They could get one to Kristen's property, but there is an issue. We have a culvert that's, I wouldn't trust a truck over 8,000 or 9,000 pounds to go over it, which is a blockage for her. It's also a blockage for my property if there was another issue on a fire in that area. But it's a cottage, and this is what I accept.
So I think we need to move on.
Yeah, I think we should move on. We gotta go someplace, and it depends on what she wants to do, whether she wants to allow people to reevaluate her plans,
Or if you know, the people who did your septic, can they toss your concept onto like a CAD? I mean, that might be the path of least resistance versus an appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I did not want to go through an engineer multiple times.
Understood.
So, you
No,
know,
under-
if
understood.
if
It's-
some of this needs to be, drawn, that could be.
That's what I'm hearing from your
Well,
neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel the need, I mean, I trust what you guys have said, I trust what my surveying company has done in terms of the wetland delineation line. And after I talked to the fire chief, there might be a different way to design the driveway, but as far as I can see, this is what needs to happen, and.
Yep, no, I'd hear what you're saying in that regard. I'm thinking when you have someone who wants to, really dive into what you're trying to do in as much detail as I'm hearing your neighbors would like to, perhaps, the path of least resistance is to, just bite the bullet and get it into CAD.
What is the,
Huh? We need to move on.
way that you,
Late.
in your rules and regs that you allow without waivers?
We don't have any rule like that in my, yeah.
You mean for zoning, you mean?
For a driveway off the wetlands,
No.
there is no 10-foot buffer, 20-foot buffer, there's no,
Yeah, I mean, no.
So is the only concern in terms of the driveway design in that one area, is this fine? Are you guys okay with the other part that's in the buffer zone? Because I don't want to go to an engineer and have him draw this and then.
Well, I mean, in general, you could just know that we want the furthest away from the wetland as possible, so if you could track the driveway more and then swing it over, that would also be preferred.
Well, one of the reasons why this wall is shaped this way is because I was planning on leaving access way for Ken and Jody McDonald to be able to use this to get bound to their road. If I straighten this concrete wall across that, I might be able to move the driveway over, but what it does is it cuts off their access. So, I mean, I might be able to.
I think you need to go and get whatever information that you can to improve this. We've got to move on.
Yeah.
It might be worth pulling a cross-section or two with your wall onto a CAD plan and a couple of the key points.
Okay, for clarification, we can't hire our own, you're not gonna allow us to have access to your property if we hire our own engineer. Okay.
Okay.
You can hire your own engineer to
Review the plans, but we're not
plans,
gonna be able to
right?
have access to our
So
property.
if you want to hire an engineer to review the plans, that's fine.
We wanted to hire a wetland scientist.
You can do that too. You
But we
can
don't
do,
have, we're not being given access to the.
oh,
So we would do that under an
We'll
appeal.
do under an appeal. That's the only option you're giving us.
I really have confidence in that the wetland delineation is,
It's
We-
not
we
just,
don't, though.
it's not just the line though, it's understanding that there's a lot of trees coming out, and the trees impact the wetland. They provide protection to the erosion, they provide the temperature.
We've got to move on. I hear you. You've
it
stated.
makes sense what you're saying.
But we've
I'm
done
not-
a
I'm not
site walk,
discounting
and
what
we
you're
looked at the
saying. What you're
trees.
saying makes sense.
Yeah, we looked at the trees though on our site walk, and it's very minimal number of trees coming down.
Anyway, I think we've given some guidance.
Thank you for your time.
Does she have a sequence of how the construction would go?
Yes.
Okay.
It's back. So the next meeting is the 24th, I'll have you get something lined up. Okay. All right.
I don't need this.
I need 2 of those plans back. Thank you.
That's how we clear the audience out.
Did you want this back? And did you all sign in, whoever, actually, did you want this back? That was the original?
No, it was submitted to you, was it? I'd like that to be part of the record.
No, I've got copies, I know you needed that.
Oh, thank you.
But it's a personal copy.
Good night.
Public meeting request for for determination of applicability, 25 Porter Road, repaving of drives and parking lots. Somebody want to speak to that?
I'll try to sign in.
Did you bring a check by any chance? We were at switch checks? Okay.
We're behind.
I got my sleeping bag in the car, it's fine.
I warned you. Didn't I warn you about?
I've done late meetings, you did, many times actually, over and over. Are you
Lay
sure?
that down right on the table here.
I'm a night owl, Carl, I'm fine.
You here for this, sir? Oh, you want to put my back to it?
Midnight.
Good evening, Peter Bemis, Engineering Design Consultants. Porter Road, so Porter Road is going to be located here on the plan. We've got Route 2 over here. We are south of Beaver Brook. Brook's up here. And we've got an existing two-story office facility. It's owned by Hanscom Credit Union, and they acquired the facility recently, and they're looking to upgrade the facility. So I provided pictures just to give you a sense, for those of you who might not have made a site visit, of what the parking lot currently looks like. We've got fractured asphalt throughout much of the parking lot. It's already gone through a couple of cycles where they've done crack filling. We're at that point where crack filling is just not going to work any longer. So the next process is reclamation. So what we do is we are proposing to put an erosion control barrier along the limit of work. It's really just a fence to say, don't go beyond the fence. There's not going to be any erodible surface along those portions of the property. Then we also protect all of the catch basins that are identified on the plan. And then the asphalt would be crushed on site, recompacted on site, new pavement would be put down. And this is all done within a few days of each other. So we
It's
don't have a
it's
site
going to
that's-
follow the existing pavement?
Yes, sir. Nothing's new. So it's fairly straightforward. We've filed a request for determination with you. We've met erosion control interests. We've got sedimentation erosion control procedures here. We've got detail for the erosion control. I have identified where the wetland resource areas are. We are outside of those limits. I've shown you where the 100-foot, so we've got an activity that would be in the 100-foot buffer zone here and here. The remaining portions of it are all outside.
And I believe you may have said that there's a curb around the whole thing.
And there's a, right, there's a berm around the site. So again, the idea here is just, at some point, asphalt's going to fail, just like they're doing on all the highway surfaces. It seems like every 5 years, sometimes even less in some sections of 495. In this case, this property is about 20 years old, and it's time for the pavement to be reconstructed. So we look forward to your support on this. We are already doing some work inside the building. And
So
you know,
the existing berm outside of the work area?
It's a curb.
Basically, this site has a curb around its entire limit.
Curb around,
There'll be
okay, I got you.
There'll be continue to have a curb around its entire limit. So the drainage patterns are not going to change. We've already got our drainage system in place, so it's just a resurfacing.
And you're not redoing the curb, that's what you just said, right?
Well, no, we will,
Oh, you're
but yeah,
just-
well, all new. Everything will be brand new.
Okay.
We actually like it when it's more pervious, but.
Right, well, I can't change that too much because the hydrology of this site is pretty much locked in.
Is there
I
any reduction in impervious surface you can make?
Not really, because they need to have their requisite number of parking spaces to meet zoning. So I really can't change what had already been approved. The good news is this site is fairly open in that only 30% of it, actually less than 30%, like 27% of it's impervious. So that's not too bad. In most
It's on a
instances, you usually
sandbank.
go the other way. Excuse me, sir?
I said it's on a sandbank.
Yeah, I was going to say the ground here is fairly permeable. So.
I remember before Porter Road.
Do you?
And
Probably
that's
a
where
gravel
the-
pit at one point.
Seriously. And also where the bridge is down there. There's a historical bridge that
Okay.
goes over Beaver Brook.
We're looking to fix it up.
So
When I was a
again-
youngster, Porter Road didn't, more than a cat path through there.
Okay.
What do you do with your stormwater now?
Oh, currently, there's a retention basin that was constructed as part of this. So that's part of their stormwater management system, is that all the stormwater gets discharged to this, then it will outflow to Beaver Brook, essentially. So that pattern is not changed.
It's just a fixer-upper.
All right.
Bring it
They
back
do a
up to
certain-
some sort of standard.
Well, that's what I'm.
If it was a-
doing improvements, are they obligated to improve the stormwater
So-
also?
generally, if they were actually doing something new than repaving, you take your opportunity when you want to, but usually. For example, if this was just a roadway, it would be exempt.
So it goes into a retention area that's within 50 or 100?
Sure, it would be within your 100. In most instances, it's outside of the 50, the way it was cited. I mean, I think they used the lay of the land fairly well when they did this design, my estimation. I mean, could they have been more efficient with the parking layout? Possibly, but they wanted to create a nice green space associated with it too. They've got a nice little drop-off area in the front of the building, and so there are some attractions to the way this was created. At this point, the infrastructure's in place, so to modify it would be a significant change. I mean, typically what we try to do if we were doing a new design is we take that roof water and we'd infiltrate that. But at this point, I can't get it, because it's already, the internal mechanics of the building, just like your building here, is already set, and it's already going out the back door. And for me to be able to get it and get it in a position so I can infiltrate it is not possible.
So it looks like only 2 areas you're paving within the...
That's right, that's what I was saying, is that all of this I can do without coming to talk to you, but I can't practically do these other 2 areas without your authorization, so thus we submit this RDA and we look for your
I mean, they're staying within the
support.
it's staying within the footprint of the existing
we're
paving.
not changing anything.
So, I'm okay.
Yep.
So I want to make a motion of negative determination?
Somebody want to second that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. I'll get that off to you.
All right, because I'm going to hold on to this check until you...
Absolutely. We'll do this- we'll do the same
I'll trade you $175 for 25.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Take care.
Good night.
No one's up.
Oh, you need some energy too.
On good things. Right. Street.
Is there any good?
We'll see with their reaction when they start eating it for you.
Uh-oh.
Are we on a jerky?
Oh, no.
No.
No? No, what we got?
One more before you.
Notice of intent, 323 King Street, demolition and reconstruction of a house.
Joseph Bryan and Olivia Bryan.
And where is,
Right across the street from the Congregational Church, right down the street. We had the house fire in December.
okay, which is sad.
Yeah, living in a trailer right now in the back.
Thank you.
So he submitted some new plans for moving the house back a little bit and rebuilding, doing a new house. I think Amy's gonna grab my info.
Does this impact that same waterway? No, as
Two brothers.
as the other house that we had some issues with further up King Street.
This one, a historic building?
No.
We're
Oh.
just adjacent to Two Brothers Trail.
Yeah.
If you walk down there, you see our house actually right there.
Oh, I
But this
thought
is
that
the-
was historic.
But this is the one, the brook runs underneath it, right?
I'm sorry, the what?
Yes.
Brook runs through it,
There's
underneath it.
5 houses.
It's a
that
water
it runs
course,
behind, yeah, yeah.
Where is that brook in relation to where you want to build?
So it is,
I'll show you all of the right.
yeah,
So the brook's over here.
the brook's over here, it should be right here. There's a line that runs right here.
The drain line is the
Drain
same
line,
drain.
yeah.
Was that buried in a pipe?
Yes, yeah.
Right here is an
Yeah, it's
existing
not- it's
drain
probably
that comes
about
from
5
all the
feet
other
down.
properties across the
There's no
back.
surface water?
There's,
And
this-
down to
my
the
neighbor has
stream.
surface water,
And it dumps in.
because she doesn't clean her drains, but not on my
We
property.
actually have another drain put in down here.
So this is
which
the existing house right now, we just want to move it back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's gonna stay, the barn's gonna stay
We
So-
are encroaching a little bit.
Sorry,
Okay, let's do this one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time.
With my, with my porch, but we can take the porch off, that's really a big deal.
They can't hear down here.
Okay.
What you're discussing.
He asked me about the pipe. I showed him the pipe.
I showed her where the pipe is.
Yeah.
So,
And we are encroaching, I think, a little bit on this edge for the 50-foot barrier.
is this the line from the wetland over here?
But we can take that, this is just a porch over here. We have to, we
Don't
can
I
take the
think
porch off.
he's,
Wait, so
Yeah.
the drain, is
Yeah,
that
'cause it's a 50.
considered
What about
a
over here,
stream?
though?
No, it's
Is
underground.
anything over
It's
there?
underground, it's
I
a
think so.
drain.
It actually
It's
goes,
very wet
goes to
over
the
here.
stream.
But doesn't it,
I'm not sure there's any upstream
That's-
wetlands
that
of it.
should,
Yes, there is.
We got too many
They're culverted.
discussions going on here.
yeah, you guys, can
Oh, yes.
can we
Yeah.
focus on one? Because we're talking about the drain, and I was wondering if that can be considered a stream. I mean, it's just culverted, but it could be culverted stream. That's what we're wondering. What's up here that's draining
This-
into the stream?
This drain runs into our neighbor's yard. Our neighbor, and goes into the yard beyond that,
Yeah.
the property
I
beyond
think
that.
beyond that, too.
And beyond that. And it was to drain down from the mountain and dumps into it. and
No,
comes down.
actually, it drains right behind all the row-off houses from the fire station down,
Fire station, there you go.
There
Yeah.
it goes.
all
It
the
goes
way
all
down
way
through it
Yeah.
in the spring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big pipe.
So that could be considered.
But it's a swale,
stream.
but I'd call it an intermittent stream. I wouldn't call it a full-fledged stream.
Well, an intermittent stream is a.
That's the same water course behind that other new house that just got built, right?
Oh, 417, yeah.
They're not new, they're existing
that's-
houses.
417's up there, these
Yeah,
guys
none of
are.
houses
Oh,
over there, yeah.
They're existing coming down, they come down behind what was my grandmother's house. From Harvey's.
I guess I'm not sure about that, Amy. Do you know?
Well, we've had this discussion many times. Even if it is an intermittent stream, it's in a pipe,
Right.
so it does not really have a buffer zone to it until you break into the pipe. And then it's like the buffer zone's released.
I plan on breaking
Because
in.
nothing can get into the pipe from the property.
Oh, that's what I
So-
said. We're not planning on breaking
That
it.
thing. Oh, good Lord.
Okay. But you just have to make sure that your building wouldn't compromise the pipe.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
because it's a godsend.
Clean the neighbor's drain all the time.
Godsend.
Okay, so we're only looking at the 50 here and the 100 here.
Yep. Yeah, so the house is already right next to it.
This is
Porch
our
would go
porch.
into
This-
the 50.
porch,
Yeah,
This is the porch, and
yeah.
the side porch, yeah, it does go into the 50.
It's like 2 or 3 feet
That's
into the
what
50.
Is in the slash.
Now, why
You could
aren't
re-
you
you could
building
reduce it
within
to
the?
get out of it.
Oops, sorry.
Ken, sorry.
What, sorry, we're probably saying the same thing. Why aren't you using the original footprint?
Why are we changing it?
Yeah.
We had a chimney fire, we had some settling, and we think maybe some of it may be from the road area, but we want to, we're pretty close to the road there, so we want to move it back.
If we had to do it, and we talked to the builders, they said move it back, because it's just very disturbing.
Well, again, we have a 50-foot no disturb, so, and this is a rebuild, so I would think you'd need to do an alternatives analysis to get you out of the 50.
Okay.
Like I said, it's just a porch, so I think we can just
Or-
cut
or
the
take
porch
the
off.
I would, or reduce the size of the porch.
Which we actually already
We
have,
shrink the
so
house.
it's that the house is actually going to be smaller.
When are we gonna shrink
We already
the
took
house
4
out?
feet off.
Or
of
go
it.
toward the barn a little bit,
Yeah. we can
shift it
probably
over
do
toward
that,
the
too.
barn.
That
Sure,
get them-
because it looks like there's a breezeway between the barn and the.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Only way
trying
it
to
really
make
goes in
it
is.
Tell
Yeah.
as similar as it was as possible.
For some reason, they said we had to keep the barn and the house together.
But
Oh.
I actually think we're gonna.
I'm not
start
sure
with
why,
this
but,
anyways.
Existing barn, yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Historic.
No, we don't, no, it's not historic. No. I mean, I'm okay with it, because it'd be nice to work out,
Shifted
you
it
know,
over towards
not
the
outside
Yeah,
and
breezeways are
into,
nice.
yeah.
So,
If people wanted to live above their barns, get the heat from the horses and the cows.
You want to
Yeah,
smell?
right.
Yeah, we had some kickers, so it's- you're not getting any sleep when it's like that.
so So the new proposed dwelling, that'll be connected to the barn? Is that, am I seeing
Here it has
that?
a breezeway.
Okay. What if you moved everything over just a little bit, a few feet over, so you'd be out of the 50? So then you could keep everything as is, but moved over a bit.
Yeah, that's what they just suggested too.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually, Andy, what we did was we made this smaller up here, so we made it a little smaller. So I think that, yeah, if we push it closer to the barn, that'll probably work.
Okay, great.
As long as there's not a building gap required, setback from between house and
From the
barn.
barn.
You might need to connect it, but you might need
And we
to,
were actually gonna shrink the house.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna fall right in once I shrink it.
Or even move the dwelling just a few feet toward the
Make it
road.
Yeah, forward
Just a
towards the
few
road
feet,
too,
yeah.
sure.
So I assume you're just here for discussion tonight?
Yeah, just to see what you.
Well, they did the filing.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna change the plans, just resubmit them,
Yeah, I mean,
is what I'm hearing.
so there's not much point in us really discussing this any further until you come in with a affirmative plan.
So the only concern is just staying out of the 50-foot buffer?
That's what it looks like.
Okay.
And you're using the existing septic system for the
Yes.
new?
Yeah, the septic system was done in 2007 or 8 when we first moved in.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're keeping it. The only thing that actually is gonna change is, so they're gonna redo the pipeline that goes up to there, because otherwise this is the old one, it went right up at the top. So the old one went right through to the new house. Now it's just gonna go around, so, yeah, this is the old one right there. Now we're gonna go up and around.
I see,
Which puts you in the office zone.
in the 50.
So
Well,
it's not just the house, it's any work
Yeah, any
in the
work.
50
Yeah,
foot.
okay. Yeah, so we'll obviously have to move the house up then, if that's the case.
Closer to the barn.
Yeah.
Unless they can tie the
Close
force
to the
main on
barn.
the other side, but maybe that's just not where
Yeah,
it
just,
wants to go.
yeah, we can't get hay and other things back there. That's fortunately the way back.
And what about the square footage? How many again before they'd have to look at stormwater?
I should be curious to know what your thoughts on that are, because it says, all activities that result in a net increase, so you could subtract out what's already there, within the buffer zone and area subject to presented, of more than 1,000 square feet or 5%, whichever is less.
Of impervious surface.
A net increase of impervious within the buffer zone of 1,000 square feet or 5% increase.
Okay.
So you might have to do those calcs and see pre-existing how much impervious area was in the buffer zone, and then what you've got proposed.
Okay,
And if it's more than an increase of 1,000 square feet or 5%, then you need to address stormwater,
okay,
which, I believe the protocol at this point has been pretty much to get as much of the roof and driveway runoff into a Coltech. There's other ways of doing it, but that's what you've seen so far.
okay,
And I can talk to you more about that,
okay.
too, once you have a little bit better idea of what your footprint's gonna look like and
Yeah.
how you're gonna shove things around.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
All right.
And I think you'd
So
have
you need
that
these back?
back.
Those are actually.
Yes.
For the 24th.
So
Oh,
that's
okay.
for you guys.
Excellent.
Thanks, Amy.
Let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Oh, the culvert did it?
Project update, Turkey Farm Enforcement Order, DEP file number 204-772, Road, 204-817, Lot 7, 204-804, Lot 30.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, since the last
And you got 10
meeting-
minutes.
Thank you.
We only want 5.
So since the last meeting, we've generated a couple of new documents.
I'll pass this down.
And Green International had an opportunity to review the documents that we had issued previously. So there's kind of 3 key points tonight that we'd like to discuss. One, Dave Cowell, our wetland scientist, has an interim report on the wetland replication area. We've issued a revised reconstruction plan for infiltration basin number 3. And then we've issued a dewatering plan for open space E and the farmer's pond. So briefly, maybe we'll just run through the restoration plan, or the replication area.
Yep, the replication area should be quick. I'm actually circulating a monitoring report.
Oh, it looks so similar. I was like, oh, wait a second.
Oh, wait, yeah, no, it's not too bad. Yeah, same letterhead, of course. So I went out and I performed a monitoring of the wetland replication area. It's overall, it's coming along. It's basically my findings of looking at it. There's some vegetative emergent cover coming in. There's areas that are greater than 70%, but it's patchy, it's not uniform cover. There's some areas that are still bare that we'll continue to monitor. The species that are emerging, it's a little early for me to actually differentiate the species composition as to whether or not it is in fact the species that were from the prescribed seed mix that we applied. So one of my management recommendations is to return for another monitoring event, maybe in a month or so, and actually determine the species composition. There's no indication of erosion or sediment. The soils are retaining moisture content as we had designed it to do. In fact, the soils are very saturated at this point, and I don't think it'll fail on part of being too dry. Simple management recommendations going forward. One of the things I would recommend is another application of light mulch. The mulch out there appears to be sparse at this point. I'd like to ask Mike Genetti if he can get some light mulch out there. It's easy to do, it's just straw mulch. It's not necessarily erosion control as it is. It retains moisture content and helps the seeds germinate. So that's one of the recommendations I have. I would also recommend just monitoring this going into late summer. If we don't receive the vegetative cover, so a minimum of 70% uniform cover is typically the standard for considering it stabilized. I don't think there's a big risk of it eroding given the flat areas, the flat topography on this. But if it remains a little sparse going into winter, I would recommend dressing it with some, maybe an erosion control fabric, just to winterize it, and then revisiting it early spring of next year in March or April to observe and see whether or not we're getting vegetative emergent cover then, and making a decision then whether or not to apply additional seed mix to it.
Why do you think it's sparse in that loop area?
That I don't know why it's heavy in some areas and not in others.
Too much
really
water.
What's that?
Too much water.
Yeah, maybe the seeds got washed away?
Well, I don't
No,
know.
I don't think there's, it's such a low-lying area that I don't think that even under wet or saturated conditions that it doesn't disperse. I don't think there's too much water.
Too much water and not enough sun.
It's got
It's
plenty
been-
of sun.
No, it
looks
but
fairly
may have been that
exposed.
it may have been that the areas that are sparse in vegetative cover were also sparse in mulch. So it may have been that the mulch actually retained the moisture content to aid in the seed germination in the areas that did receive it. So I'd like to see if maybe applying some additional mulch. But I'm not, all of the wetland species indicated in the seed mix are hydrophytic vegetation that won't drought. Unless it's totally saturated, in which case you'd have emergent vegetation like cattails, but this is, it's saturated soils, it's not standing water. So I don't think it's an issue of too
Well,
much
it's
water.
been cold and damp. I've had corn taken 2 weeks to come up,
Yeah.
which would normally come up in 5 to 6 days. And that was early on. It's just cold, wet, and damp. You haven't had we have now had some sun,
Right.
but it's
No, and it's also, the seed was applied a little late season, whereas typically these seeds are best applied in the spring. We weren't able to do this in the spring because it was saturated enough that we couldn't operate the heavy equipment to dig the soils. So that's,
And these are a slow seed mix, wetland seed, or
they are,
slow?
oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, sedges, rushes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, just an update, there's nothing catastrophic. The edges too, the sharp edges, Amy, as you commented, are starting to show some signs of weathering, and I would continue to watch that as well. And just, I think with some weathering, that the steep cuts will start to sort of taper out.
And have you guys given any thought to the invasive species control over at the vernal pool?
No, that's still.
That's usually in August, right?
Right, it's an action item remaining for discussion. It was itemized that we would retain a licensed applicator to provide recommendation strategies for, it was primarily the Phragmites that was growing in, I forget the name of the wetland feature, the one that has the potential vernal pool
Right.
In the wooded area.
I can't remember which one it was.
Right, right. And there may be some, we can inventory additional shrubs, glossy buckthorn.
I'm just saying, if August is the time to do the treatment, you might need to start lining someone up kind of now.
Yep, yeah, I would think that we would.
To get on the schedule.
Yep. So we'll make that an action item.
Okay. So that was the replication area. The second piece that I'd like to talk about is this letter. This was in response to Green's peer review of infiltration basin number 3 and their recommended punch list items on what was outstanding. We did a mounding analysis to prove that the groundwater mound would not break out into the basin and the basin would dewater as appropriate. We have committed to working with the highway department to understand their requirement for maintenance of this, specifically the drawdown device, should it be used long-term. And there was a note regarding testing of infiltration capacity. And upon turning it over to the town, when the site is fully stabilized and the roads are proposed to be public roads, at that point, we'll evaluate the infiltration basin to make sure that it is fully dewatering. As it stands right now, with the site not being stabilized, I don't think anything outside of a visual observation would provide any higher level of detail with respect to what's going on the basin itself. And I don't know if the commission would like Green to maybe respond, to review their comments on it.
So we reviewed Luc Boucher International. So we reviewed the Discovery Exhibit Plan, Infiltration Basin Number 3 Reconstruction Plan provided by Hancock Associates. As Brian said, they addressed a number of our comments from the last iteration of this. I'll just go through a few of the items we kind of identified as potentially outstanding, or at least something to note for the commission. The first was that, so in the initial plan that they had provided, they show this drawdown device essentially going past the outlet control structure and having a separate, upwards bend into some riprap. And we had just questioned why it couldn't tie directly into the outlet control structure, which would, eliminate any opportunity for any seepage to get out of that, to follow that path. And it would eliminate the need for them to cut through the existing berm that's already there. And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on the discussion that I had with them out in the hallway, it's more of a matter of the graphical representation on the right side of the page. It's just a little misleading. It looks like that pipe could discharge into that outlet control structure. The outlet control structure is a little higher, actually, than that pipe, so that's not really an option.
Correct. So basically, in the detail on the plan, the outlet control structure is drafted deeper than it is. It does not have a sump associated with it, so the elevation at the bottom of the outlet control structure is above the elevation of the drawdown device itself, the pipe, which is why we had specified anti-seep collars to make sure that water held within the basin wouldn't be essentially short-circuited around the outlet structure itself.
Yeah, and now, I believe, now that those have been added, that kind of satisfies our concern. We just mentioned it again in here, because if that weren't the case, I'd prefer it to be tied directly into that if it were physically possible, but where that structure is actually a little higher than it appears.
Are those anti-seep collars? Is that what I'm saying, or are they not really?
Here.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep.
Oh, all right, right.
Yep. So that, the other way would have just been a more surefire way to prevent seepage, though the anti-seepage collars that they're proposing are also appropriate in this situation. And I think that, given what they're trying to do, that seems to be their best option. So that was comment number 5. Comment number 6 is essentially reiterating what Brian had said about approaching the highway department for their concurrence with the operation and maintenance of this drawdown device. And where this is as the note indicates, it's going to have a threaded cap on the downstream end, and the cap will be installed on site stabilization. It's not something that's going to be ongoing. It's going to see flow through it. But just in terms of operation and maintenance, if the town was to want to draw this down, this would be a device where they could draw it down without having to throw pumps in the outlet control structure. And they could just, essentially pull up the riprap, find the cap, unscrew it, and let the water kind of draw down.
So is Highway okay with this? Have they actually seen this yet, or?
Not yet, so we still need to pass this
Okay.
through the highway department.
The comment number 9 was for the testing, and essentially what the applicant has said is that they're fine with, testing prior to acceptance by the town. But what they were saying is, what Brian was saying is that proving that infiltration rate is happening during construction it's almost a moot point. It's if you can see it visually not drawing down in the construction state, then that's until the town is looking to accept it, it's almost it's a moot point. It's if it's not drawing down and it's holding a lot of water, they need to take corrective action. It doesn't really matter what the infiltration rate is at that point. Following construction and upon acceptance, that's totally valid for them to, for you to request that they demonstrate their claimed infiltration rate. So, but we defer to the board for a determination on that, on whether or not to essentially, waive any testing during construction. It would just be more on a visual basis. It's not draining. Then our comment number 10 was, it was our previous comment was about the SWIP reports, and the contractor having to submit those. And we just kind of took an opportunity here to reiterate that, if you don't want this to happen again, it's all about erosion control. And that SWIP that they have, that they're trying to follow, is a living document. If site conditions change and, a larger area is not stabilized, SWIP's a living document. They need to adjust what they're doing out there to account for it. If they're seeing something happen, they need to adjust the SWIP. It's not a come up with a SWIP one time and then that's the rules for the rest of the thing. We're following the SWIP, so if something fails, oh well. You just gotta modify it as needed, as new issues arise. But essentially, that's it for this detention basin, the infiltration basin number 3. We have some comments on the open spacey farm pond, but I figure I'll let them, they can present.
So Highway still needs to look at it.
Highway does. So before we would implement any reconstruction practices, we'd make sure to get comments from the Highway Department on that. And I would like to reiterate that should we reconstruct infiltration basin 3 prior to full site stabilization, there's a good possibility we would have to do it again. So we're still working out timing, and we're certainly going to work with the Highway Department to make sure that they understand what the drawdown device is and if there's any maintenance associated with it.
And so you're also asking for a thumbs up or thumbs down about whether the commission feels a need for actual testing during construction, or if visual observation is enough with a test before acceptance.
Right, so it's our contention that
Yeah.
we would have to prove that it works prior to town acceptance, but during construction period, little more than visual observation would be required. We'd be able to see what's going on.
I guess
Sound reasonable to you?
I'd like to see the town engineer, what his reply is on it, and how deeply he wants to get involved with it.
Yeah.
Well, and how long is that period between, like, for acceptance for the
It
town?
could be years.
Okay.
I mean,
Because I think the understanding was.
would
it's
would you
fine,
accept
just the
one road at a
issue.
time, or would you wait until everything's done, spruce and whatever?
No, I think the acceptance comes all at once.
Yeah. So, I mean,
So
it
is there
could,
opportunity, that's my question, is there, like, if there's an issue, is there opportunity, or it's like, oh, well, we gotta make this happen? That's my concern.
Well, it will still be under-
the acceptance process usually takes a while. There's a punch list, I mean, there's all sorts of things on it, and it's got to go to town meeting, right? If I'm recalling, so it's a process.
Okay.
But during construction, if it's not
Yeah.
drawing down, if, you know, it's holding water for, 4 days, then, that's the visual observation kind of.
In other words, you don't want a Band-Aid of repair.
Or I think it's more that performing drawing it down and performing a test in there isn't gonna tell you anything that seeing it hold water for 4 days is gonna tell you during construction.
But if we get no more rain in 2 years before acceptance, a test at the end of that 2-year period before acceptance will tell you
There you go, yeah.
if you hadn't seen anything.
Well, you get a chance to test it before the weekend.
I think it's holding water now, isn't it?
And the SWIP, and I'm sorry, I got Mike's notes on the SWIP, which was more in reaction to what I was doing out there than anything else, and I think he was starting to formalize the SWIP, and frankly, I forget if I've seen one yet or not. It's actually on the SWIP reporting form and all that stuff.
Yeah, so Mike's submitting those under separate cover to you. I mean, we can certainly make a phone call and have.
I would check on that. I may have gotten one. I haven't gotten weekly ones, I know that. So, because that's where I would also expect to see information if Basin 3 is not drawing down, once this is taken care of. Okay.
So the last document that was generated was issued last week, and it's with respect to dewatering of open space. Now, what we've done is we've identified pre-dewatering activities, daily kind of O&M on those dewatering activities, items that are essentially restricted action, and then also identified what steps we want to take when the water has been brought down to a historic elevation of where it is in the farmer's pond. So running through the dewatering plan to understand the basis for what we're trying to do. Obviously we have standing water out there, so we're proposing to pump it down, and what we're going to do is we're going to pump it in the deeper portion of open space within the historic farm pond, and what that's going to do is help to keep the turbidity down of the water being removed. And then we're going to pass it through the catch basin located directly adjacent to it and equip that catch basin with a high-flow filter bag. We ran through calculations to figure out exactly what rate we want to pump it down at, what volume is there, and how long approximately it's going to take. So we're anticipating at 200 gallons a minute, 6 hours a day when the site work contractors are on site and able to review what's going on. It will take approximately 8 days. So that's the rate at what we expect the water to go from where it's at right now to the historic elevation of about 262. I know there was a concern about over dewatering or removing too much water as we head into the drier months. And to reiterate, what we'd like to do is bring it down to the elevation where it was historically in the farmer's pond, which is defined by the edge of bank, I think.
Yep.
So it'll be visually apparent when we get down to that elevation.
Which you hope is not being recharged ahead of your pump.
Well,
Well,
we'll
they don't
find
know
out.
that.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's what they hope, that it doesn't recharge faster than they're pumping it.
So that would be part of
Very
the
good point.
long-term discovery. And to reiterate kind of all of our contention with documentation submitted previously, we find it to be highly unlikely that this is a groundwater fed feature, and this is surface water that's collected because of how the road is in relation to this area. So prior to dewatering, we are obviously going to clean out the pipes, the structures, assess infiltration basin 4 to remove any sediment, install additional stone check dams, and verify that the outlet control structure is in proper working order, which we're sure it is. So the intent is to release this water at a pretty slow and gradual pace over the course of several days, allow it to get into infiltration basin 4. Should any sediment be in that water, it be turbid, allow it to settle out and then discharge again at a controlled rate through the outlet control structure. So we've specified that a monitoring agent be selected. It's our assumption that it's going to be Mike or one of Mike's staff that's on site every day to run through the catch basin, insert the infiltration basin, to witness the actual pumping and dewatering to make sure that it's happening in a controlled manner in the way that we expect it to make sure we're not discharging it at a faster rate than what the filter bag in the catch basin will be able to handle. And just to be able to assess how it's going on a daily basis and generate logs and submit those logs to the town.
Now, I noticed you have filter bags on the Basin 4 side. Well, what about the farm pond side? Are you going to protect, because there are lots of probably living things in this pond, so
Yeah,
are
so-
you going to be sucking them from there and having them trapped in the filter bags at the end? Or are you-
If they go through the pump, you won't have to worry about it.
Oh,
It's
no. Are you going to protect the animals from being sucked in?
The pump that we've specified is only a 3-inch inlet, so it's a small hose that'll be placed at the top elevation of the farmer's pond to draw water, presumably clear water, from the deeper portion of the farm pond, but at the surface elevation, and then that would go through the filter bag in catch basin 4.
You're gonna put a screen on the end of the sucking?
Because there are fish in there.
Yeah.
They'll
Okay, so there's going to be a screen on the
Inlet. On the
input side
suctions.
as well as the output
Correct.
side? Okay.
Don't you want to be able to get away? Get out?
Yeah, I mean, and also, if they're entrained on the filter, are you gonna like stop it every once in a while so that you can have release of whatever animals are entrained against the filter?
Stuck to it, vacuumed.
Yeah, you don't want them to be there for 8 days.
The monitoring agent
won't
will
be
be
there for 8
assessing the
days.
inlet and the discharge.
I would
point.
assume you could have a cage or something
Yeah,
on the
trap,
outside
trap.
of that and
Yep.
put the screening on the inside.
Absolutely.
But it is turned off every night.
Oh,
It is.
good.
We are only
6
proposing.
hours, all right, that's good.
So that's the intent of the dewatering itself. When that dewatering occurs, we're going to be getting into the secondary discovery that we've already kind of outlined, exactly what we want to do. We're showing a proposed cross culvert under the road to ensure that we can return this area to its hydrologic condition that it was.
But that's not your discovery, that's construction. We're looking to discover where the water's coming from, I believe.
Right,
That's
and
the idea behind
and
this.
that's part of it, but as a long-term solution to ensure that we're no longer impounding water in this area, there will have to be some kind of historic,
Well, I think we need to find out the source of the water first, and then we can move on to this next phase.
which is part. So the first step is to pump the water down. Second step would be to get in there and assess the resource area, figure out exactly what was going on, develop a restoration plan. Ongoing monitoring of the existing condition out there. If it does, for some reason, fill back up with water, I mean, it's gonna be evident. We're gonna be
An
looking at
irrigation
it.
pond, it was supposed to recharge.
So if it were, okay, keep going.
And then to get in there and conduct additional survey to figure out exact topography in that area, make sure that we're setting this cross culvert at an appropriate elevation, and then basically just develop the final operation and maintenance of that culvert itself. So once we dewater, we gotta assess, look, and see what's going on in that area and verify our assumptions and our design as shown on this plan for a long-term solution.
How are you gonna assess where you think the water is coming from? Like, you think it's not groundwater because of where the road is? Like, can you, I guess, explain, like, where you think it's coming from, if you're sure, and if
So
you're
we've
not sure,
already-
that's fine
we've
too,
already
but how are you
gone-
gonna?
We've already issued documents to describe kind of the confluence of events of how we think the water got into here. Coming out of the winter season with ice conditions, having the site in full construction, not having Cape Cod curb installed in specific areas, there being holes by the catch basins near the retaining wall that are all conveying water into this area. And then once you have standing water, is it going to go back into the ground? Is there silt? Is there vegetation in this area? It's an open field, so that might have restricted some of the infiltration capacity. So our intent after dewatering is to observe the area and see if it fills back up. And that would be pretty conclusive on whether it's groundwater fed or not groundwater fed, which is our
What's the length of
contention.
time you'll observe?
Seasonal. So we obviously are going to be monitoring it as soon as the area's been dewatered. We have to develop the restoration plan for wetland age. We have to get in there and get topography to understand what's going on. So we anticipate months.
Are you done with your explanation?
I'm happy to answer other questions if you have them.
Do we know what the water quality is in the farm pond currently?
With respect to
hydrocarbons or anything that may have...
We haven't tested
may have
it.
gone in there from all the runoff that you've had?
Excuse me, did you say there was a hole or something in the catch basins?
No, so remember
Into the-
when there was
Which kind of goes to what's going in there.
yeah, there was a pothole next to the catch basin.
Right.
And that was fixed, that was corrected.
But
So Mike went
previous
out-
to that, the pothole was probably leaking into the basin.
It was our
or into the
assumption,
farm
yeah, that
pond,
some gutter flow would
Yeah,
go
right.
down in the hole through the retaining wall and into that area.
As well as around from the other side.
As well as around from the other side prior to the Cape Cod curbing being installed in front of Lot 7.
Do you believe there should be any testing done prior to the release of the water?
I don't see any evidence of, sheen or oil.
Because there was some oil sheen when you had the flooding issues out there.
I haven't seen any evidence of that. And we can so as a part of this, there is a pre-construction or pre-dewatering on-site meeting. So what I would do is I would encourage if you have a concern, come out during that pre-construction meeting. We can visually walk it and look. But we haven't seen evidence of that.
Do you plan to have, like, maybe a hydrogeologist or someone, you know, with a little more expertise in, you know, groundwater and surface water interactions and flow, perhaps if the need arises?
Should the need arise, I think the first step would be to dewater, and then if it fills back up and it's not raining, then I do believe that there would need to be further evaluations, but I haven't seen evidence that this is a groundwater.
I feel like the evidence that there's groundwater contribution to the area is that there's infiltration basins nearby, there's wetlands nearby, that you can see standing water. I just feel like it's really unlikely that groundwater isn't contributing, and also in
And the
addition
pond
to the
never dries up.
irrigation. Yeah.
That's, I think.
But we're
it's
also
a-
talking about
Yeah. Pond never
elevation.
dries up.
We're also
No,
talking about
understood.
elevations that
I'm
are
just
very, very
preparing you,
different.
like, it seems like, you know, a hydrogeologist or, you know, someone with that type of knowledge might be useful during discovery.
I agree. So I guess for the, what I'm missing here is, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about discovery of where the water's coming from, and then we're also talking, according to your construction sequence, of manipulating it and building outlet structures and different things like that. I would like to keep them as two separate items and make sure that we do the discovery first, keep that as separate, 100% completely separate. This is the direction we're heading. Once we figure that out, then we move on to whatever the next phase is, if there is a next phase. I don't see, I haven't heard that.
With
from you
respect,
guys.
with respect to what? Because we've issued our professional opinion of how we think the water got there.
Yeah, we don't know that, so we don't know that.
I don't think that piece is complete yet.
We don't know, that's the piece that's
Yeah, we don't know where the
missing.
water is coming from. Like I really feel like in order to
We need to know that.
engineer properly, to make sure the site, you know, drains properly, you don't have a levee instead of a road. You know, you need to know where the water's coming from. You could add some sort of other structure, but if you're not sure where the water's coming from, it's awful hard to, you know, make the right decision as far
And
as
to
what to
get
engineer.
to get into that piece, that discovery is we need to dewater this area to understand that.
We understand
trying
that.
to move it forward.
No, we
When you come
understand.
back in 2 weeks and you have told us that it doesn't fill up or it does fill up, then we can go forward.
I think all they're proposing, this is just to dewater. When
Yeah.
some of the things that they're showing on here are placeholders for later, like that cross culvert.
Yeah, but we should.
That's what we're talking about, getting comfortable that that's a placeholder.
I don't think
That's
it
not,
should
you know.
They call that out in here.
Next week, we're gonna.
They call that out in here, potential long-term discovery and corrective actions. So they say here, roadway relief culvert elevations to be verified and hydrologic calculations performed to ensure that long-term mitigation measures recreate historic conditions. So I think they identify there, and I call that out.
Just the wording, just follow the wording, recreate historical conditions, that means installing a pipe to keep it at a certain level, even though it's a spring and it keeps coming up, but we're gonna be pushing the water off the site because. so
Making
that-
a point
see,
source
that's-
instead of an
that's-
overflowing farm
That's the
pond.
point, the wordsmithing, that's the point.
Right, yeah, I understand. But what I believe is, so there's one of two things happening here. If it is, if you go back through the historic images of this, you see that water is relatively consistently at the edge of Farm Pond. You know, there's none of the, you know, at least, you know, using Google Earth, none of the historic images show this area being inundated with water. So if this historically has been held at a certain elevation, whether it's been spring-fed or whether it's been partially maintained at that level through tile drains, which, there's been some reports that, while they were out here, some may have been torn up. If tile drains, for example, were maintaining that water at that top of pond elevation, then essentially, by putting in a culvert, you would be kind of recreating that same thing. Except rather than a subsurface drain holding it at a certain elevation, you would have a surface drain holding it at a certain elevation. So it's sort of if that were the case. I don't think that, I guess I'll just leave it at that. But that's, again, at this point, I don't believe they're proposing to do anything specific. I just figured I'd mention that just because there has been a lot of discussion about if this is groundwater or not.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think we've had excessive amount of water in the last 3 months. That could change the whole perspective of what actually happened there.
Right, but you also need to look at, what's reasonable to happen in this area, and we don't want flooded houses, or, and I know you guys don't want that either, I know that. So, yes, this type of weather condition can happen. Are we at a 10-year event? Are we at a 25? I don't know, I haven't looked it up, or
We
a
have
year or
to-
season rather, but, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we'll have, wetness again with these conditions.
All right, but if you look at just the existing topography from prior to, there was an existing relief if the area had filled up. It was a saddle, so it was located
Right.
to the west. And in part, our contention is that this is not groundwater, that the water got trapped here and is stuck there. And the culvert would just be mimicking that existing condition because we put a road in the way.
Well, a culvert's a point source. A saddle is a natural.
I understand, but
flow.
we can mimic the discharge of that to reflect the same kind of situation from a
The
hydrologic
site-
quantity
standpoint.
standpoint.
Right.
Quantity,
Quantity.
But not
and a
natural.
delivery standpoint.
But not natural setting. The site's been changed, and historically, there was some indication that it actually flowed overland and it supported wetland vegetation, wet meadow.
That's what I'm saying, that there was, that if that overland flow happened, then we would be allowing that to happen again.
Yeah, but it's happening through a pipe.
As far as.
We're not there yet.
We're not
right?
there yet.
We're not there yet.
Thank you.
Let's.
So we'd ask the
One step at a
commission
time.
to approve the dewatering plan specifically for
So what is,
Discovery.
what are we approving? Where is the dewatering plan?
I think Luke might have some comments on the dewatering too.
Yeah, I have a few comments on the dewatering plan, last revised 7/7/2017. The only difference between the one previously issued that I submitted the comments on and this one is now they have these dewatering
Right.
calculations, which I
Yeah.
looked at, but there's no sense in updating the letter. I don't have any issues with it. So essentially, the dewatering sequencing itself, I think is relatively straightforward and sound. I think that what they're proposing is likely, it's a reasonable way to dewater this with the best hopes of not getting turbid water in downstream areas.
I think the biggest thing is to make sure they're not flooding out the railroad tracks down below with all that volume of water. I mean, that would be the big thing, is to watch down below, because the water all goes down towards the tracks.
Yeah, I would,
Well, you'd
yeah, I
hope
mean,
it
that's-
wouldn't, you'd hope it wouldn't, but I'm just,
We can't be hoping, we need to know.
well, you just have to monitor and watch it.
We're discharging at a rate, and everything downstream has a conveyance capacity that we've studied in our stormwater calculations. So if we compare this to our stormwater calculations, we have discharge rates from Pond 4 for various events. We're going to be discharging somewhere between the 2 and 10-year storm event. We're going to be discharging 0.6 CFS, cubic feet per second, during this time, in which we've proven through the analysis of that area that we have done prior for the drainage calculations, the pond will stabilize. The pumping rate and the output rate will stabilize, so that pond will stay below the overflow weir, and it will go out through the orifice in the outlet structure at that rate of 0.6 CFS. So
What I'm saying is somebody's got to hoof it down there and just check on it.
that's why
Basically.
that's why we're only pumping 6 hours a day and not 24/7, so that somebody's on site and they can continue to monitor that and, down to the downstream receiving water.
Because the stream is substantially lower than it was this spring.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you're adding to it and
Yeah.
doesn't,
I agree.
Well, part of the monitoring can be someone go down to Grimes and see what the culvert under Grimes.
yeah, I mean, just
John?
keep an eye on it,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
You'll see it going under Boston as well.
So, a couple of the items that I pointed out here is, on item 6, they call out 3 conditions where they're trying to make sure that certain things aren't happening. I just pointed out that if those things are happening, they should stop and reassess. And if it's a condition, reassess and see if it's a condition that they can, if they've got turbid water coming through there, stop, reassess, see, try to identify why it's happening and make corrective action. So in number 14, essentially, I kind of talk about how I reiterated that what they say here, even though they show a cross culvert there, I reiterate that that's not something that, I'm recognizing that they're showing there as a placeholder, and that per their description under this potential long-term discovery, they say that they're going to perform that analysis, and to acknowledge that, yes, that, to identify that as a placeholder, and to even point out that, the size that they show there, for me, that, I mean, they haven't done an analysis yet, but that seems small, not necessarily from a hydrology or hydraulic standpoint, but I would I'd likely want to see something bigger to, reduce potential for clogging. If it's only a 6-inch pipe, doesn't take much to get stuck in there, a stick or two before you got an issue.
What are you looking at, something like a 2-foot pipe with a weir in front of it? Or something just to,
I mean, that's up to them as the engineer of record to propose, but even
To be
if-
determined.
Right, yeah. So the dewatering sequencing itself, I think, as I said, I think it sounds reasonable. And I wanted to point out that temporary sediment basin that's shown on here, that's not part of this. They're not proposing to discharge to that for dewatering of this. That's just on there as a separate item, and I wanted to point out that as a result, I didn't review it. This is a review of the dewatering only. And then the last two are, one is the identifying the pieces that we would expect to come out of this long-term discovery. One would be a wetland restoration plan, 2 would be a long-term O&M plan / schedule, and the third obviously would be that hydrologic calc. And then as Brian noted, they proposed to assign a monitoring agent from the contractor. And, obviously if that is Mike, then obviously Amy already has the contact info, but if it's not, that's somebody that the commission would need their contact info, need that individual identified. And I was going to include something in here about notification prior to start, but they're proposing a dewatering, pre-dewatering on-site meeting, which would essentially be the kickoff of that. So that would be essentially the notification. But those are our only comments on the dewatering portion of this.
How will you know when you're down to that historic level? You're going to have a survey marker in the ground?
So Amy had brought that to our attention, that it might be a good idea to install another stadia rod, not unlike what's out there, and we would propose that to be in the location, generally speaking, of the farmer's pond. Obviously, we're probably not going to get a 15-foot pole to the bottom of it, but that's not the intent.
There's a bench on the side, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, isn't there a gate there or something, or a post, fence post
There
that
is.
could be attached to, which would be pretty much,
I just make sure it's something that's gonna be there for years, potentially, so I'd get a good stake in there. Could be looking at this for years.
Hope not.
Might have your culvert, but there's still,
something like granite post?
there you go. With etched inches on it.
What is OSE again?
Open space E?
Oh.
I also wasn't sure if you wanted any specifics on what the discovery is going to entail, besides topo and seeing if the water comes up and down. If you want something like specific vegetation plots, data plots, they can also be tracked.
I would want limited manipulation to the site until we've figured out.
So do the dewatering, and then, depending on when they start, when they next come in here, maybe be able to do the topo that they want to do. But there may
some
be further
preliminary
discussion about what
vegetation.
else, what other data gathering may or may not need to be done. Kind of depending on what it's going to look like when you pull the plug, too, so. And are you happy with Mike or one of his guys doing the monitoring of this?
Not to dump more on you, but it would be,
Kind of
if
like
you
you, I'd
drove,
kind of like to put it on you,
I can't get out, I can't be out there every day.
not every day.
And I think it's going to maybe need to be watched every day. I was going to dump it on
Monitor?
Dave.
Yeah, I was gonna say, typically an environmental or erosion control monitor, I mean, can you fulfill that role? Or, I don't know Mike,
Can you
so.
report back to Amy, who's ever doing that?
Yep, so we've right in the plan, we specified that daily logs be kept and submitted. And again, I think logistically, the kickoff meeting, you can kind of fine tune exactly how the
Well,
reporting is.
Mike has been keeping daily logs of the water level, and he's supposed to be submitting them weekly, and he hasn't been. So the track record isn't huge there. So I just want to be very clear, if there's going to be daily reporting, that it really is daily reporting. Not, here's my daily reports a month later.
is it something,
Yeah.
is it something they could do just by email each day to you?
Yeah, and I can certainly, stop by. I don't work on Fridays, so I wouldn't be out there on Fridays. I wouldn't be there at the beginning, end of the day, and, when the
We
pumps
can
start
ensure
up and
those
stop,
daily
so
logs,
it's just,
Because we're gonna be
yeah.
watching this pretty closely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to see what happens the next day. We pump it down.
So I would say if we don't get the daily logs, the dewatering stops. That's what that would be my trigger on it.
I guess the interesting part's gonna be to see whether you pull it down for 6 hours, where it pulled to, and then see whether it goes up from that point.
Well, and rain too.
Take it slow.
Yeah.
Checking.
Yes, I'd like to see, you've started a spreadsheet of what
And
the
we're-
recordings have been and the rainfall, and I think you might need to do twice a
Hydrographs.
day readings, beginning and end of the day.
Yeah, I think this compared to what you're looking for from Mike on the daily reporting now, which it goes up half an inch, down half an inch, it's really not doing much, right? We can all agree to that. In this particular case, it's going to be far more dramatic. We're very interested to see what he does as well. So this reporting will be a little more detailed and a little more time.
So you may want to get that data in sooner rather than later.
Yep.
And justify it or whatever with the existing one.
Well, the other thing is if we happen to have a bunch of consistent hot days, a lot will evaporate too.
Yeah.
That go up and down. Okay, so basically, we're supposed to give you permission to dewater, is
You
that?
have to vote.
Well, that's what I'm,
This will be sort of kind of a partial lift of the enforcement order to do this work, sort of. But
A partial?
Let's not forget, there's
partial
still-
lift? of certain
Or disapproval of the
parcels.
action or whatever, yeah.
Who would like to put that into a motion? Carl?
Yeah, I could do a motion to allow, who are we allowing to do this? Hancock
Hancock?
Associates? Who's the,
Durkee Farm Builders is the owner.
allow Durkee Farm Builders to initiate the watering of the farm pond with daily monitoring eventually down to a level elevation of 262 is our target.
You could say in
But-
accordance with the plan.
In accordance with the plan and the monitoring
And Green's input.
and Green's input.
And I believe one thing that came up was 2 times a day, start to
2 times a
finish.
day.
Yeah, monitor.
Well, 2 times a day for the water level,
For the
yeah.
water level.
I'm watching for wildlife.
Do I hear a second to that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
What, if any, action do you, or do you not want to take about this temporary basin on Lot 11, which is on that plan? Lot 11 right now is, kind of a mess. It's sort of a half-hearted basin already, sort of, kind of, but it's,
I think there's juvenile, like sandpipers or something out there
Killdeer?
today.
There's killdeer
Might
out
be
there.
Killdeer, they're juvenile. Killdeer out there. What are we trying to do with that? Do more construction? Can we wait until they're older?
they
We
run.
just, we
running all over.
were just trying to
Just
Just be
formalize.
careful with them?
Yeah, so
You
there's
have
2
that.
rows of silt fence and hay bales in that area, and we just want to formalize it to make sure that there is no breaching of the erosion controls, and we wanted to put it on the plan,
Okay, so
because we
you're-
haven't had anything in this area.
Okay.
So that was the intent.
So you're not using an excavator to do that?
I don't know how Mike would construct it, but yeah, he would probably,
You'd need one,
he
I
would
think,
have to
probably.
put something in there to berm it up in the back, but he can certainly look for the critters and the wildlife.
They're running around all over the place.
Yeah.
They're
Killdeer
different.
there's 2 different life strategies for birds, altricial and precocial, and I forget which one's which. But one of the life
How
strategies...
often do you want to use
I know.
that term?
I know, I just wanted to say...
And then not be able to explain.
Well, I forget which is precocial, which is artificial, but some are, the life strategy is that from emergence, that they're very independent immediately on, where they emerge and they're not flightless and downy little puffballs that need to be fed.
Yeah.
They emerge
Well, they were pretty
running,
downy. I
and
couldn't
they're-
identify them. I
Yeah.
didn't have any markings.
Oh, sure, I've been able to go just scoop, they have
Oh,
no fear of
really?
humans at that age, you
Okay.
can pick them right up. But they they emerge very early on, very, very flighty and easy to move and
They're very
disperse
mobile.
and
Okay.
mobile, right. Whereas humans,
Okay.
and you have a
Just
baby, it
don't
takes
bury
you
them with dirt.
18 years to care for a child.
Understood.
Okay.
Don't bury the dirt.
Understood.
So go
Oh, I'm
ahead
trying to-
and do that temporary basin on Lot 11. It probably needs some attention, so that seemed,
So do we need any special conditions in regard to that motion?
the temporary basin piece of it?
No,
Dewatering?
the dewatering.
Well, I think you had to cover it in your motion. About go ahead and do the
course.
dewatering with the,
I would think that we
In accordance with the plan and
maybe put
Green's
something that
comment.
the Conservation Commission could stop the dewatering at any time based on,
that goes without saying.
that goes without saying, okay.
But what about this temporary basin? Is this,
That's like almost a separate item.
okay, it's not, I mean, the construction of it or the maintenance of it is not part of this.
No, it's not part of the dewater.
Yeah, it's not detailed on there or anything, it's just graded on there.
Okay, so we'll see that later.
Well, do you want to see it later, or should they just go ahead and do it? Do you want to pull off a separate
It's
plan?
yeah, I mean,
on
it's
it?
already basically a temporary sedimentation basin right now. We have 2 rows of silt fence and hay bales. We just want to formalize it and, make it a little bit better than where
Right.
it's at.
That area also really, actually several areas flooded back in that 1 1/3 storm.
So this one
Yeah, there's
is
standing water there
just
now.
is that north?
Yeah, there's been standing water there for a
northeast.
while.
Northeast of the one that didn't drain, right?
It's this.
Isn't that the
Am I
one?
in the right place? Yeah, it's this. This is flooded, but the farm pond's over here, so they're looking out, and this is lot 11. This is a worst-case view of it, flooding from the road, but it's just sort of a quagmire right now. But it is handling things like these overflows.
Yeah.
Chase, do you have any comments? You've been following this for quite a while.
I've been following for a while. No, I mean, I haven't reviewed the full set of documents, so probably not appropriate.
So, thumbs up or thumbs down on winging the basin on lot 11? You want to see more information?
It seems as though whatever needs to be repaired on it, but not to expand on it.
Also, the overflow, where does that go? Looks like there's a overflow weir and.
Yeah, this is sort of kind of, the upper portion of the basin is sort of kind of already there. And then there's another low spot here which backs up against the erosion controls.
So
Nothing's
it
gotten
just
through
overflows
yet.
into what? It just.
Just a
The
low spot.
erosion control.
Yeah, two lines
Well,
of
that
silt
eventually
fence.
There's
enter into
there's
there?
actually already another set of erosion controls in here somewhere. So it's kind of informally already operating this way, but I'm guessing
Is it going
putting
anywhere?
this upper basin, if you will, formally there, it'll trap more sediment, which now is really finding its way back here and being trapped by the lower erosion controls.
Yeah. I feel kind of uncomfortable with the overflow weir leading to nowhere. That's what
It all leads to a wetland. But
But-
maybe you
but-
just
Right
get.
now, if the volume wasn't sufficient, it would overflow the silt fence and go towards the wetlands anyway. So this is another line of defense. So rather than ponding against the first line of silt fence, we're ponding against this berm.
So basically, you're trying to make a default type situation, so as it doesn't get any worse.
More protection.
Mhm.
It's temporary, because lot 11 is ultimately going to get developed. Right now, the way that if the catch basin right there overtops, then it goes down into that area. That's where the water goes. So we're just trying to provide extra precaution.
Has anybody got any objection to them putting in an extra row of hay bales or whatever it takes?
Well, it's more than that. There's already an extra row of hay bales and silt
So what do you-
fence.
And silt fence.
Earthen berm.
Earthen berm.
Earthen
to-
berm.
To detain the water.
Anybody got any objections to any of that? Anna, you got any objections to them trying to make it better?
Where are they gonna get the soil for the earthen berm?
Probably out of the drip pile.
It's gonna be loam, just loam, regular loam?
No. We built it with,
Crushed stone or what?
no, with some of the base material, just to form the core of something that can be compacted and semi-impermeable. And then you might dress it with loam and seed it if it's gonna be there for a while.
Yeah, I would like to know what kind of stabilization you're gonna have with that earthen berm when you first make it.
Well, the same, we have the 2 lines of silt fence that we have there now.
No, but I mean,
You're talking about like a cross-section?
well, you're gonna make a
cross-sectional
berm all the way around the basin of
On the low
soil?
soil.
Oh, just on the low side?
Yeah.
Just,
There's a
just
natural
here
berm
and
there
here.
now where we cut out, we started to grade that lot. We started on that lot, and then, so we left sort of the grassed area and started to carve the lot out. That's your berm now. I think they're just trying to formalize that a little more. It's just a BMP to keep any flow from, it's gonna have more trouble reaching that dueling set of wattles and silt fence. It's gonna build it up a little bit, so we don't have a ton of flow going to that, but I think they see a potential weakness and just trying to.
So basically, some material isn't gonna silt all over the place.
Correct. Yeah.
Is what,
Okay.
Yeah. We're
whatever
doing
that may
these sort of
be.
berms all over site right now to manage potential storms and any runoff. As we build spruce, we have a handful of them over there is just a BMP as part of our.
I just don't like a lot of open, bare soil.
Which is what's there now.
Which is what's
so
there
that's
now.
what we're trying to do.
You would not want to walk across
What it is,
that area.
it's gullying, it's starting with gullies, well.
And actually, this could also be an area where your wood chips, wood mulch stuff
Yeah,
could
that
be
stuff
used.
works awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some way to
We'll lay that
stabilize
on
it.
the back of it. We'll lay that on the back.
Okay,
We have a pile of that.
all right.
That'll create some
Yeah, and
stability.
the standing water there was very, very silty still, and it
Yeah.
hasn't rained in over 24 hours, so I'm sure it's contributing silt to areas
Yeah.
that don't want silt.
Do we need to have a motion to that, or do we have an informal agreement?
I think we should make a motion.
Well, make it.
Okay. I make a motion that they can proceed with the construction, final construction, since it's already partially there, of the proposed temporary sediment basin on Lot 11, including stabilization of the berm on the northwest side. They're going to,
Just in the buffer.
Chase critters away.
Do I hear a
Chase the
second?
killer out.
any second?
Oh, you want me to do it? Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we can move on?
Thank you. Infiltration basin 3, that was.
When are you starting to dewater?
They need to go
You're gonna
to highway and,
And you'll alert.
Well, there's the meeting first.
might want to redo the plan so that there's not testing during construction, that observations is fine.
See you guys.
Oh, I don't think they called that out on.
That's true, they didn't.
That was,
When do you meet again?
that was
24th.
July.
And, oh, what
So
was
we gotta have some results, so that we got
Well,
any.
if we get in with highway and get that.
So it's just getting-
Blessing on that clean out for 3, we'd
Getting
love
Chris or
to
somebody
get,
to sign
obviously,
off on
that
that.
during the dry season. On 3.
Dry.
I don't think I had.
Can I ask you guys, if Chris Stoddard signs off on Basin 3 rebuild, can they go ahead, or do you want them to come back?
Basin 3.
If Chris raises any issues, they'd have to come back, but otherwise, can they go?
What you had asked was Chris okay with that clean out mechanism, was your concern? So I guess. Amy got
That was
the-
the only outstanding
Right.
item on
I
that.
thought there was, that's not the one that was silted in that needs to be cleaned out at some point?
Yeah, that's what
Yes.
we're hoping to do.
Oh, okay. Oh, and you're looking for the highway department's blessing on that?
I think Mr. Picard had a question on the clean out.
A couple
All right,
comments.
and it'll be caught in acceptance anyways, right?
Yeah.
Correct, prior
One
to
of
that.
my comments went away. and
I have
then
no
you
issues.
guys gave the thumbs up on another one, and then the only other one was Chris Stoddard or
Mhm.
someone from.
Or Jim Clyde.
Yep.
So everybody else okay if we proceed, if Stoddard's okay?
And if he's not, you have to come back.
Yeah, I understand.
Figure that out, so,
Yep.
all
We'll
right.
modify accordingly on the 24th.
So let me know.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Good night, everyone, thank you.
Good night.
If,
Chestnut. Lane, Lot 12, 204-772, Lot 13, 204-723, and Common Drive, 204-650.
yeah, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the record, Jeff Hannaford, representing the applicant for the 2 lots on Chestnut Lane, lots 12 and 13. I want to say before we start, I apologize for missing the last meeting. I was stuck at a previous hearing in Westford, and it led me to believe that I'd be in and out of there quick.
Oh.
But,
You know how that goes.
yeah.
That never happens.
Yeah, there was a hearing on before me, and I heard that they had asked for a continuance. I guess at the meeting, that wasn't true. So they got carried out quite a bit longer than I thought. So Amy had asked, what's transpired is a redesign of the retaining walls in front of Lot 12. I had submitted a copy to the commission's office, and Amy had asked me to take a copy of it and superimpose the previous plan's walls on it, so you can get a better idea of what was and what is. In red is the walls previously. In gray is the proposed wall. What you see immediately is the length of the wall has been extended, and particularly in this area, the wall was pushed out. This is the common drive here. That has not changed in location. So even though the wall got pushed out, the limit of work did not go with it. It just simply moved closer to where the common drive was already approved. Main reason for that is they wanted to be able to grade between the two walls at a much more gentle slope. Second thing that happened was this wall area in the front of the house, that was initially designed by the architect of the house and then given to the structural engineers to finalize the details. The reason we went back to the architect for that is, as you may recall, this is a garage under on this side, so effectively what's exposed is the basement floor elevation. And we had to transition from there to the front door, which is up at the first floor elevation. So that was presenting an issue on how to make that transition. The architect came up with an idea where you walk off the driveway onto a walkway, there's a few steps up, there's a landing here, a few more steps up to a landing here, and more steps up to the front door. So he terraced it up in different positions to allow these walls to be shorter and more manageable until you get into this area. The same is true on this side. It transitions back down. There's a walkout basement on this side of the house. So this area was redesigned to take all that into account and to be able to manage the construction of the wall and the final grading between the outside wall and the inside wall. So now we expect this to be at about a 3-to-1 slope, which is very manageable from a maintenance and erosion position. Big thing about moving the wall down, one of the things that was brought up in the discussions was with lot 13 beyond there was no turnaround. If you passed the entrance to lot 12, you had no place to turn around unless you drove all the way into the driveway to lot 13, which they have a turnaround in front of their garage. So what we did was we created a turnaround here and a potential for off driveway parking on this side, just to keep this area managed so that the people at lot 13 aren't impacted. If somebody's coming to lot 12, they want to turn around, they want to stop and park, there isn't room or access to their driveway. This kind of keeps everything on lot 12. But as you may recall, we've got a pretty good slope here too. So it was felt that the best way to manage the slope was it's expensive, but to continue the wall so that on the uphill side of the wall, again, we have a very gentle grade that can be easily managed. We felt that with some of the issues of controlling erosion, the water issues at this site, that it was best to make that added expense to control that. So what we're doing is, and as part of the design, is there's drainage on the back side of the wall that will collect down. We also have roof drains and foundation drains for the dwelling. So that's all going to come together in the low spot over to the detention area that was shown on the plans originally. And that we feel is going to mitigate those issues we had. Originally, this was just going to be all sloped. It was going to come down quite steep towards the common drive. And other than trying to control it with some sort of matting, there was nothing really there to control the groundwater.
Is that
So-
going to prevent the water that used to go to that part of the wetland on that side? Is it going to prevent the water from getting there and?
No, because it,
Detention basin instead?
the wetlands flows in this direction. So even though we're bringing the water through into a detention area here, it's eventually going to make it to the wetland and work its way back to that same direction.
Although through the groundwater, not through surface flow.
Through the groundwater, yeah, mainly.
Which will usually takes a lot longer to get to.
Well, it's coming through the ground already.
Not the overland flow from the hill. It used to get to the wetland, straight
Oh,
into the wetland.
well, as far as runoff,
Yep,
yeah.
Spring flow at the Toda slope.
yeah.
The runoff
Straight
will,
on the Toda slope.
right. The runoff will also end up in that low area, but that's the way the original common drive plan was.
How high is this wall gonna be? This last one is what, 20 feet?
It varies, it's about 6 to 8 feet at its highest point, and tapers down from there.
So you're saying that the overland flow, that you used to get to the common drive, you would be channeled to that detention basin anyway?
It always was, yeah.
You gonna have the topsoil, I assume lawn, so it just flows over the runoff would go over the top of the wall? Just as a natural flow?
Yes, in the, any of the steeper areas, it will be, it is getting late, a jute mesh that they'll put to control it that eventually will vegetate.
Have you got anything coming off the wall into the ground to stabilize the wall? Like a timber or something to hold the
Tie backs or
wall in
something?
place?
Yeah, there's, where is the, right here, there's a geogrid mesh. The geogrid is sandwiched between the blocks and extends back into the slope. So the weight of the soil sandwiches the geogrid, and that acts as an anchor pulling the wall back into the hill.
Are you reusing the blocks that are out there, or?
As much as we can.
Yeah.
Some we can't, but some, what we can salvage, we will.
And for the parking area that you're creating, is that going to increase your impervious area?
No, it would be a crushed stone. It'd be temporary, and so that I convinced them that we should treat it as such and not pave it. And the turnaround would be paved, but any off-street parking would it'd just be a crushed stone type of base.
What's the difference between the turnaround area and the parking on that plan?
Pardon me?
What's the difference between a turnaround area and a parking area on that plan?
Right here?
Well,
That's the parking.
Oh, there's the turnaround down there.
Right here, yep.
So that's new pavement?
Yep, that little piece.
But this is totally new from what was ever permitted before.
The turnaround is.
And the
And the parking area.
And the
well,
wall.
the
And the wall.
off-road parking is all,
Right, again, we didn't change the common drive layout. We've held that, and,
essentially making it solid so you don't sink in the mud.
yeah. Yes, and I think I'm also going to suggest to the owner that when it comes time for the common drive, the final grading, I think we're going to be looking at probably adding an infiltration trench on the uphill side, that if there is any groundwater that makes it under the wall, that the infiltration trench grabs it before it gets under the driveway. Just, the driveway's not going to last if you don't keep it dry under the base. So I think to protect the base, it'd be a good idea to put an infiltration trench.
If you
to
don't
catch
want
it.
it going underneath the wall, you're gonna have the whole thing sliding.
Right, so there is a drain on the back side of the wall.
I don't like the sound of increasing impervious surface, so I would encourage you to, for the turnaround area, to have that be pervious as well. Somehow like turf stone or other, or pavers or something that's not impervious.
Okay, I can talk to them about that. It's a very small area, so
Right.
that certainly isn't gonna hurt. Maybe some pavers,
Right.
something like that. I think it'd be better than crushed stone, just they're
Well,
going
this
to
is supposed to
need
be
it and
incremental. We've already
hate
had
it.
one change on lots 12 and 13, one series of changes where some issues like that came up, so now there's more.
Right.
So that would have to be a vote of the board to okay that.
Well, that would be the next question, if you want to approve this as a field change or require another amended order of conditions?
I've thought about that question coming up in anticipation of it. My 2 cents to offer is, I think we would probably all agree that for some time this ship has been somewhat rudderless, and a lot of time and effort was wasted, and I think that the message has finally gotten through. The fact that this engineering firm was hired to do this, and the fact that an attempt had already been made at a wall, that in the time of year, I would just hope that what we find is that the most important thing, I think, right now is to just get it done. And I'm saying get it done right because we've taken the steps now to make it right so that it minimizes now the input of those making the decisions to say, this is it, we follow the plan, no other changes, let's get it done, because it's been left in a state that is more detrimental to remain that way than to move forward and get it under control in a right way. And they've been convinced, they're ready, they've got their permit to do this. So they've already been moving the blocks in anticipation of it. So they're just waiting now for a final word to go. And I would just hope that this is something that we could look at as a positive. And if this is what we're going to go with, then I would hope that we just save as much time as we can in getting them the word to do it, especially if we don't foresee any possible change coming from extending the time by having to refile an amendment.
So you're asking for a field change?
Yes, sir. I just think all the situation kind of warrants moving forward more than, I don't know how to put it delicately, but
Did the building department approve this?
pardon me,
Building department has approved the wall?
as far as I know, yeah.
Because anything over 4 feet high, he,
6, yeah. or 4. No. But yeah, they need it.
How tall
Yeah,
is the wall?
they have a separate building permit for the wall.
Do you have it in hand?
I don't. I've heard, I was told the contractor has it.
How tall is the wall?
I guess
I know there are issues with it, and they asked for different plans, but I'm not sure if they approved it yet.
it almost seems like it's gotta be subject to Roland's approval.
Yes.
Yep, that's perfectly fine with me, it should be. 6 to 8 is the maximum.
I think
So
we have
hence they've got, now they have a structural engineer's stamp on a plan that was required by the building inspector before they could apply for the building permit. And so he's had the plans now for some time, and like I said, I was told that he issued the permit, but I haven't seen it, so I can't say with absolute certainty.
Well, we probably have to know whether or not, definitely whether it's permitted, or else it might change.
Right, that's why if you condition upon his approval, then as the plan exists today, then.
Well, I know
Probably.
personally, I mean, it was terraced, it's still terraced. I mean, it just is a significant increase of the wall. And then the parking area and the turnaround definitely.
I'm tempted to say go forward, but I want a notice of intent on it filed.
You mean an
So-
amendment?
Huh?
An amendment?
No, and bring a full notice of intent on it, on the wall, where it is such a significant change, and we keep going around in the circles on this. But I would not hold them up from doing it, but I'd want the paperwork filed. Is that reasonable?
I don't think they can do the work if there's going to be a notice of intent on it, or an amended order of conditions.
Some sort of a handle on it, more than just say go.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any
Well,
comments?
those are the 3 levels, a field change, an amended order of conditions, or a new notice of intent.
Well, I mean, we could do an amendment, as you say, and he could
Condition
move
it.
forward. Yeah,
Hmm?
condition it, move forward.
I mean, condition the move forward.
Yeah.
I
We
would also say
condition
that I think if it's a new notice of intent, I believe you're going to open up the 50-foot no disturb zone problem.
We don't want to do that.
Okay, well then just, let's amend it.
Okay. well,
And amended does mean a new filing, a butter notification, newspaper ad, so it's still a formal process.
Well, I think he's changing the flow and
Well,
everything.
No, I agree.
Significant.
The thing is, you
It's
want to have the
significant.
wall stay, it's already fallen over once.
Yes, I
So
agree.
you want to have it, some sort of a handle on it.
Well, you might want to get a better grasp on the drainage and the changed driveway and.
I mean, definitely terracing like that is better than not terracing.
Right, that's, that's why I
like
look
the
at it as an
slowing of the flow.
improvement to potential erosion.
Yeah.
It's a better control of the site. So, and if the driveway's in the same location, then we're not moving any closer to the wetlands with any of our work.
But you're having more buffer zone impact.
And you're
Well, we
changing
were
the
going to
topography.
anyway, because, I mean, we have to grade this.
Right.
So,
And it
to
would all
me,
become
this is
vegetated
in
grass.
lieu of a grading that has a higher potential of erosion, this is a different way to grade it that is a better control. A lot of people don't want to do it because of the cost, but it's really the way that this needs to be done. And so, again, getting back to it, I thought it may look like a significant difference on paper. It's certainly a significant difference in cost, but I see it as an improvement to the biggest problem we have, which is the erosion problem right now. So that's why I think it lends itself more towards the field change to get it in place than the paperwork to delay the inevitable, because, I mean, we're not going
Is
to
this
change
gonna
the
be
plan.
It's not inevitable. The second part of that wall is as much going in, so you can have a turnaround and a parking area, as it is to fix the slope.
Well, I say inevitable because if you said, we want to do the amended notice of intent, notify the butters, come back, I'd be back with the same plan. So by inevitable, I just meant you're not going to see anything different. And we'll just be that many weeks down the road of nothing being done.
I guess what I was thinking was if you do the amended plan, make them do the paperwork, but let them go forward with what they proposed here, just so that we don't tie them up any longer.
Except it'll be prior to the butter notice.
More of an after-the-fact type of filing.
Yeah, well, then they won't have an order of conditions that they're operating under that shows this plan. So if it fails again or something.
Yeah, I feel like it.
I agree, doing it as
Yeah.
you're not practically getting much by making them do an amended order of conditions or a new notice of intent that we're not gonna discuss right here now.
Yeah, other than we have it all written down and legal.
Exactly, yeah. So one of the other rules of thumb that you kind of look at for requiring an amended order of conditions is, are you gonna change the order of conditions? And I don't know if there's gonna be any different orders on this. The plan will change, but that will be worked through with a field change.
No increased impervious surface.
Well, you can change the plan to show that.
Oh, so it wouldn't be, no, I can't think anymore. My brain
I
just
Well,
Exactly.
I think that, the fact that we've submitted the plans, they are part of the record. They may not be spelled out exactly in the order of conditions, but they are part of your record. So there is still teeth to that. You still have an order of conditions. So you're not relinquishing any jurisdiction or authority. This is added to the file. We have to comply with this if you accept it and vote on it. Whether or not,
Is that got an engineer's stamp on it?
Yep.
I'd be curious if there's some way of putting this on the deed, the way the order of conditions is on the deed. Because the order of conditions, it refers to different plans, so let's get this one on recorded too somehow. I don't know if that's.
But I'm nervous that tonight we don't have definitive answer as to whether there's a building permit, a valid building permit on this.
Well,
So-
you can we can just stipulate if there isn't one, they can't go forward.
Because they couldn't anyway.
Yeah, we can anyway, so.
But I mean, basically,
Yeah.
if Amy finds there's nothing issued, then they're dead in the water until they get it issued.
But what if if they get it issued and it changes it?
Well,
Then they're gonna have to come back.
Okay, all right.
And you could, if you want to let things go, make a specific motion to accept this as a field change with a specific date on there.
Right, this is,
And if that
this
changes.
has been changed a couple of times through our review. So, this isn't something I was handed yesterday that we're trying to push through. This has been a month in making, trying to make it right with the site. And, there were some things I wasn't comfortable with. They made some changes. And now, like I said, we've got the owner at a point where he's taking direction much
Is
better.
it all specifically spelled out as to what you're proposing to do? Is it in that list on there? But is it like the drainage swale on the outside and all that? Everything you've talked about, is it specifically spelled in writing?
As far as the wall is concerned, that's what this
Drainage.
is all about. As far as the common drive and the drainage, it's as per the plan that was approved previously. The previous plan had drain pipes for the roof drains and the foundation drains. All we're adding is a drain for the wall, which,
And a drain on the outside, some sort of a leaching drain.
for the
that follow-
driveway,
Well, it goes along the wall or along the roadway.
Or you had talked about.
that would
Protect the
be.
roadway.
Right, if it's along the roadway, I'll be back in to talk about that. I just brought that up as we're
Why not
discussing that.
include it tonight, if we're gonna, you're proposing to do it, so as we have it as a package deal.
I think you'd have to show it on the plans.
Yes.
As well as change the plan about whether or not there's to be pervious or impervious turnaround.
Make it clear. No,
Yeah, I agree.
And do you have a note on there that specifies if that's gravel, the parking area?
Yeah, well, the point of this was for the wall. The rest of that was for discussing why the wall was where it is. If you want to condition this, that the turnaround be pervious and that we show crushed stone where the
I would think
off-street parking
a
will be.
good gravel base may be better than the crushed stone, because people turning around, crushed stone has a tendency to walk. So maybe a good solid gravel base, even with a little loam on it, so it grassed up, to stabilize it. My opinion, I don't,
Well, do you want all that shown on the plan before you approve it?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There's a lot of stuff, and you should, if you can, get the infiltration trench on there.
Yeah,
I
I
think
will
that's something,
definitely
yeah.
do it. Like I said, the impetus was really to get the wall
But
in and going.
Let's just make
Yeah.
it all
Yeah.
done, so you're not coming
Yeah,
back
there's
here,
Lots of details, yeah.
have it all spelled out completely.
Mhm.
Is that, so how are we going with just a modification, or,
Well, do you want to wait until he does the plans, showing everything,
yeah,
Yeah.
those notes?
yeah.
Is
And-
the,
So wait,
the
so we can
mat for the
say-
vegetation, sorry, go ahead,
Huh?
Hannah.
Go ahead.
Is the mat for the erosion control on your vegetation over on your left on the wall, is that, no, like on the wall part, is that in the notes as well? That was something that you had talked about too.
I'm sorry, maybe you could.
You had talked about putting some sort of mat here because it was steep. I'm just wondering if that was in the notes. It sounded like it was a discussion
Yeah, it's
point.
on here.
It's on there. Okay.
Yep.
Wanna
Yep,
make
that's
sure I send
actually
you
the
away with
detail.
everything.
Yeah, that's the detail for it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I thought that was sod, okay.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't, it's,
Yeah. Makes sense.
Just make it
So,
a complete deal.
Yeah.
So wait, so are we saying, so if I make a motion that,
I don't think we're making any motion tonight.
oh,
No, they come back with a set of plans.
okay, I thought we were doing a field change thing and
Then
contingent
maybe you could do a
on
field
submitting a
change,
plan. Oh,
We just want it spelled out.
so we're gonna wait until the next meeting in order to,
so they have no go-ahead on the wall yet.
I mean, it seems like maybe there's too much that we want to get shown on the plan to give an approval tonight
Right.
for a plan that doesn't show.
I was thinking we'd be able to
You can't
have a
really-
field change and contingent that he submit a plan, a complete plan with all those details.
That's up to the board.
If
What
you
do you
wanted to.
feel? I mean,
I'd rather see the,
Complete
based on the,
package?
based on the history here, let's see the plan.
All right.
Well,
Because the turnaround and that parking area are on the property, correct? Even though they're off of the common drive, they're still on the property, so they should be shown and they should be specified, yeah.
well, okay, maybe I gave too much information. That's not information that belongs on this plan. That belongs on the site plan. This
But
is
it-
just for the wall, so.
Yes, but you gotta stabilize the base of the wall, too. And you'd probably have the gravel up against the base to hold the wall, too.
Well, the bottom row of the wall is buried on a layer of crushed stone. So the wall has its own foundation and base.
Well, that's what you thought the last time.
Pardon me?
That's what you thought the last time before it fell over.
Well, we have an engineered plan now, so.
Well, wait, I don't understand. So your turnaround place and the parking area are part of a separate filing you're going to do?
He doesn't want to include it because he wants to get moving on the wall. And what we're saying is we want the complete package shown
Right.
so we can just get it over with.
Right.
Yeah.
So the only thing that we're really missing that we need for the wall is the infiltration trench.
And the
Detail.
turnaround, gravel and the turnaround.
Well, he's saying
The-
that's separate.
They're all separate. The infiltration trench has nothing to do with the wall. That has to do with the driveway. And the turnaround has nothing to do with the wall. The off-street parking doesn't have anything to do
Yeah,
with the
we're
wall.
gonna- yeah, but we're gonna
The
see-
wall-
So that isn't part of your NOI, your submission. That's gonna be a separate submission?
It'll be another field change.
And I'm just trying to make a package deal. out of it.
Yeah,
We could do-
The priority is to get
we
the
could
wall
do-
moving, then
Right.
maybe piecemeal is
I would have time
way
to do,
it.
yeah.
And I guess you also need to decide, are you okay with extending the wall that much to allow a turnaround and a parking area down there?
Right, see, it is connected.
Yeah.
Well,
Approve the wall and it's a done deal.
Confused.
It is
Well, it
connected.
sounded like the wall was necessary because of the grade of the land. No?
well,
The wall's been down already for how long?
Okay.
When you see the red line,
Month.
that was the original
Yep.
wall.
Right.
It just didn't
So they're
fall.
doubling the length of the wall.
Yes, no, yeah.
So there was an
That's
attempt to build a
understood.
wall previously and it fell down.
There was a wall up and it fell down.
How long had the wall been up?
or
Probably
down.
this spring. It's been down for quite a
So
while.
it's,
It was up for maybe a month
it's
or
more than,
something like
it's a modification to the wall.
It is more than a modification to the
I
wall.
just think it
More
all
than
goes, I think
modification to
it
the
all
wall, so
goes
we need,
together.
so we can't, I'm with Jim, we need the plans.
So if we're gonna wait for the plans, we might as well do it as an amendment.
Well, I was going to
It
say,
would still take longer. By the time you do,
I was
first of all,
gonna-
you have to file it by, to formally do it, you have to file it by tomorrow. And
Right,
the abutter
to get
notification
the
by tomorrow,
abutters.
so it can get in the paper, so it would be a month.
could we compromise and say that, again, this is for the construction of the wall. As far as the turnaround, the off-street parking, any infiltration trench for the common drive, we will file an amended NOI for that work, because we will have time to prepare the documents for that, and allow them to at least get started on this wall in the meantime. And by the time we come back in, we'll have an amended plan for the driveway showing the turnaround in an appropriate way. And we can include this plan in with it. And that way, when you were saying about following up with it, if we follow up for the driveway changes, we can add the wall
What
plan in
happens
with
if
it.
you can't sell gas on the infiltration trench and the turnaround?
If I can't, what?
Can't sell him that idea.
Oh, I'm quite sure I can. I mean, this is far more costly than the infiltration trench. And this is a done deal.
Well, worst case, you can get that wall approved, and then you guys could say, no, you can't put in a turnaround in a parking area, and you have to revegetate it. That's the worst case.
Right, and then he's built the wall for nothing. So, it's, you really have the full control of it.
Would the wall just tie in pretty much where the red line is if you didn't extend it for the turnaround and parking? And what would it,
Well, yeah, we'd end up with grading in this area.
right?
Yep.
What's the grading supposed to end up as, lawn or,
This would well,
just
I
natural habitat?
Yeah, I'm sure this would be lawn area. The further out we go, I wouldn't want to say without knowing for sure where he wants to end. I can't imagine that they would want to loam and seed this far away from the house. I'd imagine they would want to go with some sort of natural seed mix and leave it at that, but
But the slope from the house to the edge of the wall is gonna be manageable enough so you can push a lawnmower on it?
yes, a 3-to-1 slope you can.
Well, I'd like to require, if you're changing it from a naturalized area to a lawn, I wouldn't support that. If you're gonna make this change and you want us to have a field change, I'd like a requirement that portion, the new portion of the wall be naturalized, like meadowy, meadow seed mix or something, pollinator seed mix.
Would you want that in your backyard?
Compromise.
Would you want that in your backyard?
Love that in my backyard.
I have it in my
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person.
I used to have them.
Meadow seed mix?
Yeah.
What's in there?
Walked into that one.
Is that
This flowering.
Joe
meadow
Pyeweed,
plants.
native?
Milkweed?
aster,
It's something you mow once a year.
New England asters.
Something you mow
Bull
once a
thistle.
year.
Oh, there's a good
Where
one.
are we going? 'Cause where are we going with this?
My next question is, you came in for 12, what's 13? You get that on the that's on the list here too. That all gonna get tied in with this?
Yeah, it was put on the list. We really don't have any changes to that pertain to the wall.
How about the roadway?
If anything, there might be some of that infiltration trench.
Another, more of a turnaround?
That would be something, well, 13's over here, so again,
I'm just trying to get this all wrapped up and be done with it.
well, that's why well, that's why I would like to come back for the driveway with the amended NOI. Like I said, there's been so much focus on just getting this wall right, getting it designed, getting it approved through the structural engineer and the building department, that that's what I was really most prepared to talk about.
You just threw the rest of the dream in with it, huh?
Well, I wanted you to know why this was here, and that's why I brought up the turnaround in this part. It was just to explain why the walls. That was part of it, and the bonus part of that, besides getting the turnaround in this, is it makes this side of the wall much more manageable. He wouldn't have done it if it were just for the grading side, but to get this and that together, it was a win-win, and that's what sold it.
Somebody want
Someone would
a
actually
motion?
park down there. Can I just not to make
I'm
your
getting
heads
tired
explode?
too, Amy.
Just the wetland creation area,
Yes, I found it.
it's been done?
I'm not quite sure we're gonna have to do a site, but I found it on plans.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I've actually added that to my, my plan on the computer. So I know where it is now, at least in relationship to everything, where it should be. So now, I'm at a point where I could actually, if there's any doubt, because it's in the CAD system, we could have the surveyor survey locate.
I've got a ton of doubt. I've had it for a year. I'm not convinced it was ever built.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
For an impact that happened, God, I don't know how long ago.
Right. So I don't know how easy or hard it's gonna be to find any of the old wetland delineation. So I'm thinking maybe having the corners of it staked by the surveyor based on the plans that were approved, at least we know where we'd be standing in relationship to the approved plans. So I can do that.
I would tend to think you'd want this to move along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hasn't.
That's something
There was a
that-
separate NOI filing for the
Right.
other road, but it was,
Yep. I managed to come across that while we were going through finalizing some of these details.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the construction of the wall as a field change, but only the wall, and the turnaround and the driveway be a part of a separate amendment filing.
and the infiltration.
And the
area.
infiltration
trench.
Trench. I can speak.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
And if we don't see you again, what's our ramification?
do you want, do you want to make that contingent on the building permit?
Yes.
Yes.
Which it kind of would be anyway.
Yes.
And that the slope be naturalized
I got one more quick thing.
of the new
Yeah, that you might be able to catch in the next one.
Do you want me to throw it out now?
Yeah, no,
Okay,
no.
so, no?
No, do it, do
Okay,
it.
so with the agricultural working group that's been set up by the selectmen, it's going to be meeting again fairly soon. And so when Tom left a couple months ago, I kind of stepped into the role, but we never formally voted it. According to Diane Crory, she doesn't have any record to it. So for me to take on the role, it has to be formally voted. So
I thought you went on an oath already about it, right?
The paperwork, something didn't kind of follow through. I was wondering if we shouldn't list the parties involved. I was one, you, and then I don't know whether
I
we
thought I
had.
was an alternate.
Well, that's fine, but I'm
The
just saying.
Agricultural Property Working Group?
Yeah, it was to do with the leasing of the properties and discussing how to manage the agricultural land that the town holds. Is what it was basically about.
And don't start standing up, because I got other things too.
Uh-oh.
Guy, he's about to bolt.
Uh-oh.
11:10.
I'm ready to go.
Good night.
Yeah.
I get paid
We're
all
not
the
taking
time.
pictures tonight, are we?
Are we moving to nominate?
Huh? Oh, yeah, I'll move to nominate Andrew. You could ask me to do anything right now. I move to nominate Andrew to be on to our representative on the agricultural committee, right? Is that right?
Agricultural
Committee
Property
or
Working Group?
commission?
Agricultural Property
Oh,
Working Group. I can't even say it now.
Property Working group.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. All right. I'll go get sworn in tomorrow.
Perfect. What do you have, Amy?
I have, I can't remember, 46 Nagog Hill Road, which is the Rondi Saparati
Oh, yes.
thing, but she's not involved anymore. They did get an extension, they want to build the house, they want to reduce the footprint. So the question is, field change or amended order conditions or new notice of intent? And if you ask, just to let you know, if you ask for new notice of intent, you're going to screw them because they're in the 50-foot buffer zone.
Oh, jeez. That was the house like out back.
But wait, I don't
But
know
they
if you
stay
remember
within
it.
the footprint?
Like, it
It had a
slopes
mess,
down and it's
it had,
remember the house?
you know, Nagog's out here, or Nagog Hill's out here. So they got the house up here, septic behind, the wetlands are here. So this is the 50-foot, so a lot of grading.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen it, the footprint's gonna get smaller.
So,
Well, smaller is better, right? Is that
Smaller is
rule?
better.
Maybe
Yeah.
outside of the 50 if.
I guess the question is, would you see this potentially as an amended or condition, or just a field change?
Wait, so they're,
So
what
they're-
change is it then?
I don't know specifically whether it's gonna be a smaller footprint. So I assume this will be totally unchanged. I don't know if by making this smaller, they would change this grading or not. They could probably actually frankly go either way. Probably
And
easier
when
for-
was this submitted?
This was extended through 2019.
Okay, so they're well within the timing, and
Yes.
it's just whether or not the shrinkage of the construction of the
The
building
process.
itself is, and the potential reduction in grading or whatever will be a field change.
sounds like a field change.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
I was
It's
trying to-
it's getting
but I know
small,
this was
it's
kind of a
not
sensitive area,
getting
so-
bigger, it's getting smaller.
Yeah, all right, I'll call them.
I can't believe someone want to build a house there, but it's slope.
And
There's
I,
nowhere left to
I know,
build a
that's a
house on a
tremendous
slope or in a
Cooper
wetland.
sidewalk, if, another one from where your head explodes, they had some erosion issues out there.
Is this Cooper?
This is Cooper. Michael Field is all over it. There has been some sediment into the wetlands.
Oh, God.
It goes pretty far, but it's very thin. So I said the first 6 feet or so, scrape it back out. He's digging some more temporary basins and putting up more erosion controls. I'm gonna go out there Wednesday, make sure it's all set up before Thursday.
What controls were there that
it's gonna be
collapsed?
late
or
if you
weren't?
go Wednesday. It's supposed to start raining on Tuesday. Again.
He and I were going back and forth about what actually is gonna happen tomorrow in terms of rain.
Well, we're supposed to get major
So we'll
rain,
just find
like
out.
tornadoes potentially tomorrow.
Oh,
Is that
really?
tomorrow? Was that, yeah, the
it's
forecast
tomorrow.
kept changing.
Okay.
So
All right.
Hey,
I didn't hear about that.
More water in the farm pond.
I told him,
But it's too
Water,
watering
I'll go
now.
look.
they probably
It's
turned the
gonna
pump
take
on
over
right
the
now.
site, right?
I told him that I would talk to you guys tonight, that if he gets things done by Thursday, maybe he's okay. Worst case, there's an enforcement order. I would tend to give him the week and see what he does.
Let's give him some time.
Well, again, what erosion controls were there that didn't work?
It was, he said, the downpour on Saturday, it sounded like it was apocryphal in that little section of Littleton.
No, it was like, my house was getting power washed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
My house was
just
getting
dumb.
power washed. It was
I talked to
really
Corey, over at the
windy.
water department, it was half an inch. I
got an-
think they were like cells.
It was
It
intense.
just-
We got 1.5 inches with the 2 storms over the weekend.
Okay,
Really?
so
Rain gauge.
Yeah,
it was
So
that
let's-
storm,
let's
it
cut
came
them
down
off.
from above, and it started cutting culverts. So it was,
It was very high intensity.
some of the wattles, and some of the silt fence. One particular place, it didn't blow out, but it overtopped.
I
And you
hate
could
to
see
give him any benefit of the doubt, but
But you will.
The grass was flat, rocks had been moved, I mean, it,
Oh, it was,
No, it was-
horrendous.
Yep.
so I told him to redo his weekly SWIP to take the worst case from last week, and then he can do a SWIP for this week where it's all gonna look rosy. And if that really happens, then
all right.
we're good to go, so. 210 Whitcomb, I got a complaint, this is Dufour,
Yeah.
on Whitcomb, right up against the Boxborough town line. And I guess Jim recalled that they were supposed to put a berm, you can pass those around, some of
Yeah.
those. there's
I
different-
thought there was one around it.
So, I can write them a letter and see if they'll invite me out? Or,
Yes.
I should be asking you this, is can I
Wait,
just go out? and
which
look?
property is it?
It's,
I would just
George
go,
Dufour's
this?
property.
I would just go out and look.
can I do that? I should be asking you guys, I should know this. I don't know if I can just like go on their property and look.
Is it posted for trespassing?
It's a scary piece of property.
Uh-oh.
Is it the one with all the stuff out?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They own both, the highlighted lot as well as the lot behind it.
Okay.
And I tried to overlay the 2008 and 2013, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of change, but it's hard to tell because trees have come and, grown and.
A lot of stuff.
What's wrong with
The
it?
the guy, what's his name? Rita and, guy's in the landscaping. He lives down here right on King
Oh.
Street.
Oh, the Biagionis.
Huh?
The Biagionis?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it? He rents part of the space out there. I think Met's Tree Services.
Yeah, there's a couple
another-
signs out front
There's
of different.
4 or 5 different people that are renting space there. I don't know how much George's family is actually using any of it out back. I see the trucks up near the barn that have the name on it.
Boxborough's involved in this also, so I can write her a letter,
Is it
and
Boxborough or Harvard? Harvard's right there at the town line.
I got a call from Harvard. She says it's not hers, that it's Littleton and Boxborough.
It all comes
It
together.
all
in-
comes
it's
together.
Middlesex
I
and-
kept seeing town signs.
It's
as I was
also
driving through
Middlesex
there.
and Worcester County, right there too.
Perfect.
Huh.
It's
This must be
Harvard's
the-
Worcester
Harvard's
County.
Worcester.
Yeah.
But this is LCT land, so I could go into that, but it's all wet, so I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go bushwhacking through this.
Yeah.
And the other side here is the Harvard Sportsman's Club, so I don't think.
That's somebody from the Harvard Sportsman Club ratted them out.
Uh-oh.
For what?
So it was someone from the Harvard Sportsman Club who called the Harvard Conservation Commission and said, there's something going on over here, which may be legitimate, may not.
I know they stock,
Oh, like they're doing
they stockpile
something.
wood, they stockpile loam and stuff, and they, down there.
Borrow the
Where are the
drum from the water
oh, the
department?
wetlands are here and the.
There are wetlands up
Oh,
there.
here?
There's some areas. There.
So
the
what's the,
drone,
what's the
from the water
decision
department?
whether you go
Do they
or?
have a water, they have a
No
drone?
letter.
They've been updating the alumni field construction for fun, to go just look at it and get aerial views. Seems like
can
that's
talk
a
to Corey.
legit use of it.
You want to fly over private property?
Oh, jeez, a fly.
And the other side of this is the This is mistrust land.
Yes.
Oh.
Well,
I think it might even be this, or maybe it's the next one down.
some of it might be, but some of it is one of George's daughter's property too. It goes, the long sloping driveway, it goes down to the house way down.
Yeah, which I think it might be this house that shows up here.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, I'll send a
That's
letter and see
huge.
what happens.
The letters, yeah.
Letter.
420 Newtown Hill, which is right next to the parking lot for the Yap Conservation Land, which the Fields owned. J.J. Markey did a design, they put in a septic system. Peter Scott's son, whose name is gonna escape me right now, owns it. There's a question of whether or not he's gone over the property line into Yap. There's some
Oh.
additional grading. So just to let you know, I'm screwing around with SVT about what to do, and it could get nasty, I don't know.
Ooh.
If he's gone over, it's been like, the width of this table, it's not drastic, but he wants to go further. Like, no. And do you have any idea of what Danny is doing in terms of mowing? Apparently, I think he's behind schedule.
Well, we're all behind.
Okay. Then I'm not gonna.
Because of the rain.
Newtown, at Newtown Hill, they're worried because the trail from basically the garden back into the woods is impassable right now because the hay is so high.
It's very ticky looking. I wouldn't go through it.
But
We're all behind.
somebody volunteered to go out and mow the trail, so maybe I'll say just go mow the trail. Don't worry about the whole thing, but if you can get out, just do it.
Jim O'Neill's got a nice brush hog mower, so he can just go right through it.
Yeah, Jim or somebody else was thinking about it.
What you might do is give Danny a call and see when he thinks
He said he's gonna
maybe-
do it next week, then
Yeah, well,
everybody can wait, but,
it's gonna be rain all this week,
yeah. And he hasn't done Cooper yet, I mean,
and he hasn't done Yaps. He does the Yap property too.
Oh, he did, yeah. Yep, I drove by on, Friday, and he was out there cutting it and
Oh,
scooping it
man.
up. And,
I walked through there to get to this new
On
town
the
road
hill?
area, and the grass is
yeah,
up here.
by the parking lot.
No, I'm talking across the street, Calvin's property, up behind Peter's
I think
house.
he was over in Peter's yard.
Well, that's Peter doing something.
Okay.
It's up on the hill, face of the hill and all that,
Sure.
Danny does.
Oh, I don't know if he did Cal's, but
I
Yap got
guess
done.
so.
That
Oh.
got all chopped and collected.
I'll just hand it down. Take a look at this, guys, if you're interested.
Are we all done?
Do you would like to have Andrew
Have we?
give a talent show just on the benches?
Oh, and the
found?
benches. So, do you want to do it?
I don't know anything about it.
So,
I think Carl's about to fall off his chairs.
So,
Carl, meetings go late sometimes.
5 minutes left.
We'd like to, yeah.
we'll make it super quick. So, I've been working on
The longest we've been here.
Peter's bench for Bumblebee,
Yeah.
the granite bench. I did go to Jim's store in Leominster today and had a look at them. I'll send Amy the pictures of the benches, the two that they have, and the costs. And I'm going to check to see how much money we have in the account so far, and we'll work on getting that done. But I will, like I said, I'll email the pictures. They look great. They're very nice benches.
You don't know how much money we have in the account?
I don't. The straight bench is like 2 1/4, and the nice curved one that we like is like 370. So, but I'll look into it and we'll get it done.
Good, thank you.
But that's just the beginning, because you gotta do the installation.
Oh yeah, and then we'll do.
I'd like to have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 23 minutes past 11.
Second.
Is this?
All those in
This is your
favor?
Aye.
Hope the hell we don't have another one this late.
Is this the latest ever?
This is the latest ever.
Is it?
Oh
Yeah.
jeez.
We're surprised.
Wow.
Man.
It was.